this guy away. All right, so I am here. Thanks everybody for joining. Let's hide this guy. All right, there we go. All right, so all right, welcome. I am live here with Paige, also known as the Screen Queen, or just Screen Queen, on Instagram and TikTok, and we're gonna chat for a little bit. So I'd say go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell me who you are and what you do, and thanks for joining us on this Sunday.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm actually in the future. It's Monday here in Australia.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yes, but I'm Screen Queen. I have an Instagram and TikTok that I run. Just basically, it started off just letting people know what new TV shows and movies were coming out, and then I kind of dabbled in reviews. And I've been doing it since April 2024, so pretty fresh, pretty new to the scene, kind of working it all out. But I'm excited because it's my first YouTube live. This is my first time. I've done a couple of lives on TikTok, but that's about it. It's my first time kind of being able to meet another creator and chat. So I'm really excited to do that.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing, just because with and we'll get into it in a little bit, but with the uncertain nature of TikTok, I kind of wanted to reach out to some more creators and I want to open a space. I don't have a huge YouTube channel, but I mean, it's decent enough in size. I produce a lot of content on here, full length videos and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I've been watching your stuff, and I guess the way I would describe it is like as cozy, quirky, I guess is the best way to describe your reviews. They're insightful. They're not spoilery. You always seem to have a big smile on your face. Not, I bash a lot of stuff. I try to do it humorously, but a lot of that's lost on the internet. But I kind of like your stuff. I don't see you naysaying too much, or even if you do have like a negative review, you're smiling, and it makes me kind of want to go watch the movie anyways.
Yeah, that's one thing I find difficult about reviewing is I try to see the good in everything that I watch. Mm-hmm. And so even if I have to really hate something to go make a video on it and bash it. Sure. And I think I'm just so excited to talk about it with people. And that's why I'm smiling and I'm having a good time. Mm-hmm. And also, I really wanted to create an environment where in my videos, I'm sitting on the couch, I'm with my dog. I usually have like a blanket over me. It's like I'm in the living room with you. Right. That's my whole kind of spiel that I kind of want. Yeah, it's just like I want you to feel like I'm watching it with you and we're having a good time while we're talking about it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally pick up on that. And you're based in Australia, right? So we got quite a long distance here, but seems like we don't have any communication issues as far as this is right now. So
no, it's exciting, and it's going to be really exciting when we get into the TikTok ban, because I'm really curious your feelings on it, and being in the US and what's the temperature right now with creators being right in it.
It's kind of bizarre. And yeah, I guess we can get right to that. Let me pull that up real fast. I had a little, so it's actually kind of wild. What's happening. Let's see here. Yeah. So here you can see. So they it's back online.
I know. I saw that this morning. Everyone's like, I'm back. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, so
it's been 24 hours.
It lasted. I think it actually lasted 12 hours or something. But you still can't find it on the App Store. So
interesting.
Last night, just for for the whatever, I deleted the app off my phone, and then I was seeing some tweets come through that it was back up, and I was like, what? So then I went on I couldn't find it on my phone, so I went on my desktop, and lo and behold, it's there. So,
oh wow.
I know that Trump is talking to the CEO, and they're trying to do like a effective 90-day extension, if you will. Yeah. So I honestly, it just seems kind of up in the air right now. But yeah. So yesterday night, going on social media, it felt like everybody, it was either just kind of like, well, this sucks. Or, some people were like, hey, this is my livelihood that, the government just stripped from us. So it's definitely, the temperature is definitely there.
Yeah.
you know, I don't want to get into like the politics of everything, but you know,
No.
it seemed like a lot of people were pretty upset about what was happening. It's like you can have us do this, but you know, there's other things going on that you're not focusing on. So yeah, I'm curious because it's not banned over there in Australia. So what were you kind of gauging from what you've seen?
Well, I think it's honestly, I think it's probably so upsetting for content creators that
Yeah.
earn a wage from it and have quit
Mhm.
their jobs. And it's so sad to me to think that their, like you said, their livelihood is up in the air. It's not really fair to these people that have poured so much energy into these wonderful channels that we all love.
Yeah.
Um, the only thing that was a little bit, I think what was a little bit funny is how much the app in the last kind of 24 hours before it got banned, how many people came forward kind of revealing secrets or revealing things about their channels
Hmm.
that were fake.
Yeah.
And then and the ban only lasted 12 hours. And
Yeah.
they'd probably come back and gone, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. Honestly,
Um,
it's kind of exhausting at this point.
yeah.
It's just like, is it gonna do this? Is it gonna do that? And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's back up. I have no idea what the functionality is or what the future holds right now, but it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's murky to say the
Eh.
least.
Yeah, it's I don't it's interesting because I don't know how you feel about TikTok in general. I find the TikTok audience can be really hard to break into.
Yeah.
I feel like Instagram, and it's not that I'm trying to advocate for Instagram, but I've had so much more success on Instagram than TikTok, and TikTok feels a little bit harder to get into uh,
Yeah.
from a content creator perspective.
It's TikTok. I have a very love-hate relationship with it.
Yeah.
Lately, I don't know if I got shadow banned or what, but like for a while there, a lot of my videos were getting a lot of traction, a lot of
Hmm.
engagement, things of that nature. And then as of late, like my videos will either right away I'll get a warning on it where they're like, "Hey, we're not putting this in the for you because for whatever reason." And
Oh,
then like I
interesting.
won't get any traction whatsoever. So I don't know what I did. That's the problem I have with it is I think I know some creators that were outright banned for no reason. They weren't told anything. They couldn't go back in and like talk to anybody because I think basically that whole thing is run by just some sort of algorithm
Yeah.
AI system. And so it's really hard to communicate with someone if you have any sort of issues. So I don't know. But I've also put out some stuff that's gotten huge amounts of views and engagement
Hmm.
and stuff like that. So like I said, I have personally, I have way more, uh, uh, success on YouTube and Instagram like you.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you on YouTube or do you just do the TikTok, Instagram thing?
I will be starting a
Okay.
YouTube.
Yeah. Not a bad,
Breaking news here.
you heard it here.
I will, yeah, I will be starting a YouTube actually, and which I'm really, really excited about. I've had a couple people ask me, can you please start a YouTube? And so I'm trying to think of sort of a creative way, and maybe I'll bounce that idea off of you afterwards. I have a little bit of
Sure.
an idea of what I want to do, but yeah, I will be starting YouTube because same thing, a love-hate relationship with TikTok.
Yeah.
I've had videos flagged because I've used a green screen with a photo and they think that the majority of the video is AI, I guess. And then when I go to appeal it, they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, it looks fine," but it's
Yeah.
too late. They don't put it back on the
It's too
For
late,
You.
they don't do
So,
anything with it. Yeah, like I had a video that I posted of the Superman, trailer,
yeah.
and they flagged it for violence, and I was like, "Superman, I don't," it's the part where he's just laying there and he's talking to the dog, and they're like, it may be too sensitive for some viewers." And then I've
Oh,
had ones
Henry.
where, yeah, they'll flag it for, violence or something like that, and then I'll appeal it, and then they'll be like, "Oh yeah, no, we're sorry, our bad," and then nothing happens with the video. So I've been
Yeah.
dealing with that a lot more lately. I don't know if they made some updates to the algorithm or something, but it's been driving me insane, and I've been just trying to
Yeah.
find a way to maybe work it a little bit better. Um,
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I noticed that you have way more followers on Instagram than you did on TikTok, and that's
Oh,
same
yeah.
with me. Like
Yeah.
I've kind of blossomed there, but I do get frustrated with Instagram's algorithm because it's like I have a little over 40,000 followers. And then sometimes I'll put out a post and it gets like 300. And they're like, oh, we sent this to 300 people. And I'm like, why don't you send them to all my followers at the very least? It
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
that
follow
that's
me
the
for a
thing that
reason.
drives
They
me
want to
crazy.
see my content.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, yeah, people, yeah, follow you for a reason. I'm sure some of them are
Hmm.
bots. I mean, I have no doubt about
Yeah,
that. But it's like, you got a
still,
relatively decent sized following. Why not show my stuff to them? So
absolutely.
yeah. All right, cool. Well, yeah, since we already started, we can move on to some more news here. Let's see what else we got. I know we had a whole list of things. Okay, so this I'm sure you've seen some of this been that's been popping off. We got the LA wildfires. So it seemed like things started to take a turn for the better, but
Mhm.
it looks like tomorrow the winds are supposed to really pick up, so that could
Oh,
just be the tip of the iceberg. So I was curious
wow.
how closely you've been paying attention to that over in Australia and kind of what your thoughts are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in general, be living in Australia and also being from Canada, we tend to keep up with what's going on in the US.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
just natural to us. But
Uh-huh.
I think also with the fires, I don't know if you know this, but Australia a few years ago had horrible, horrible wildfires. So it feels like we can relate to that.
Sure.
But I was talking with some of my friends yesterday, but the fires didn't go through like a major city. It didn't go through
Mm.
something like Sydney where it's like it wipes out an entire area where people are actually like, not saying that the fires didn't mean anything here, but I'm just
Sure.
saying that it it's such a scary time. And I can imagine for those people that you wouldn't know what to do. It's almost like when COVID happened, it was like everything's up in the air, everything's scary. You're about to lose most of your belongings. It's horrible. I can imagine how upset people are. And I was
Mhm.
gonna ask you, how do you feel about them moving forward with all the award shows?
Yeah, it's a little bizarre.
Mm.
I mean, it's obviously the elephant in the room at
Mm.
those things. I lived in LA for close to 6 years, and so I still have some friends and family out there, and my family had to evacuate their home, but they're back
Oh, I'm
now.
so sorry.
But
See,
I
once
mean,
again, that must have been
nothing
so
happens to them.
scary.
They did have to leave but I guess the winds turned a different direction and missed them completely. But
Wow.
yeah, it seems it's I don't know. It's obviously a huge story, and especially for people like you and me, like we do stuff based in this industry, but we're pretty
Hmm.
far removed from it to a certain
Yeah.
extent. And you hate to see it. Like I've seen that a lot of production studios and things of that nature are considering moving from LA altogether, just because
Wow.
displaces so many workers, so many
Yeah.
industry and things of that nature. So, yeah, I don't know
Absolutely.
how I feel about the award shows. It's like the show obviously must go on, uh,
Hmm.
but it's like they almost should move it to I don't know New York or somewhere else. It feels like.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've seen sort of two sides of the argument where one side is, the award shows create a lot of jobs.
Uh huh. They
So
do.
all those people who do need work and all the entire production that goes into those awards. Um, so I do see that side of it, but then I also see the side that, the internet and everyone's feeling lately with these big glamorous spectacles
Uh
when
huh.
there are so many things going on in the world that it seems like we're ignoring when you have these big award shows, and I
Right.
think that's why people have been kind of tuning out a little bit. And so it's such a tough subject, and it's like I don't know a lot of people that watch those award shows anymore or
Um,
care. It's
you
one of
know,
those things that's fading.
Yeah, and I was actually going to talk to you about that because I've been doing this. I've been such a movie fan for so many years. I mean, I went to school to be a filmmaker, um, and I honestly just don't care about the Oscars anymore.
Right?
Like I
Right?
just
When
don't.
did it change? Something changed.
I think so I was actually asking my buddy who's he watches a lot of movies. He'll text me when he sees like Nosferatu or something like that,
Yeah.
and just kind of gauge my thoughts on the matter. And I asked him I was like, name me the last 5 years, like what won Best Picture, and he was like, I have no idea. No clue.
Yeah.
He knew Oppenheimer last year because that's a Christopher Nolan movie, and a big chunk
Yeah.
of people saw it. But I was trying to
Hmm.
remember. I used to know from like the '90s on. I knew almost every year what the award winner was, and then I was like, "What won during COVID year?" And then I was actually struggling to remember what the last few winners were too. So
Yeah. It feels like it's gotten a bit political in some sense, but
yeah,
then also I feel like, some movies that we really, really love never get recognition
yeah,
or any kind of love at those awards. And so it's hard. And you think that certain movies win or certain celebrities win based on not necessarily their performance, but how long they've been in the industry and
sure.
all these kind of factors. And it doesn't feel, I don't know, it is the past couple of years. I think I've been watching the Oscars since I was young. Of course, there's been some
Yeah,
years that I've missed it. But for the most part, I've been watching it for the probably, I don't know, the past 10 years every year. And there
yeah,
was one year, I think it was about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, that I just thought, I don't care about any of the movies nominated. I'm not watching it. I'm
yeah.
not watching it because I just don't care for any of them. And it killed me a little inside to not watch it because it felt like I was breaking a tradition. But it is getting harder and harder to watch those award shows.
I agree. Yeah,
Mm,
and I think especially with how long it goes on usually.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. People hate
it's
that.
3.5 hours, including
Oh,
uh, the fashion show beforehand.
oh,
Essentially, it's
yes.
like everyone's wearing this, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
people are having trouble affording eggs right now. We don't want to see like your $8,000 suit.
I
I think
know.
I
I
think
know.
with the advent of social media, the celebrity is kind of, especially the Hollywood celebrity, I think has lost a lot of favor with most people, most just
Absolutely.
normal working people. So I think there's that element. People don't necessarily want to be preached to. Um,
No.
I mean, I know I don't,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and then yeah, then there's movies that win Best Picture. Like last year, I think everybody kind of wanted Oppenheimer to win, especially just because of Chris Nolan's,
Yeah.
his filmography. He has so many huge. He's like the one dude out there that can make a movie about any subject, and it will be a massive blockbuster. So
Absolutely.
it's like it was really cool. I guess for someone like me to see him uh, win something because I've been a big fan of his for many years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so this year, they haven't announced any of the nominees, but the Amelia Perez movie seems to be gaining a lot of steam, and I had a hard time watching that whole movie. I don't know if you feel
Okay.
the same way.
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, fair enough.
But the what people are saying online, and then I get all these clips from TikTok. I'm like, oh no, okay. I
Yeah.
don't know if I should actually because it's interesting. It's coming out in theaters here.
Okay. Yeah, you guys have
Uh,
different release dates and stuff like that, right?
different release dates. So I don't think it's out yet here in Australia. So I'm like,
Okay.
but there are so many movies to go and see. I'm like, is that top of my list? Even though I think it might actually do well at the Oscars, I don't feel like it's at the top of my list at the moment because there's too much to watch.
There really is.
Yeah.
You're not wrong
Yeah.
about that at all.
Yeah.
I, I yeah, it's funny now. I've actually gotten to the point with a lot of this industry because I still love movies, and
Mm.
and I think I don't know if you feel the same way as I do when it comes to this, but when you hear people say, "Oh, they don't make good movies anymore," and I'm like, they make too many movies. I agree with you, but there's actually a lot of good stuff that you probably
Ah,
haven't heard of,
yes.
haven't seen.
A
Um,
100%. I
yeah,
hate
right.
when people say that. I
There's a
hate it
quantity
because there
problem.
are.
There's a quantity problem, not necessarily a quality problem.
Yeah.
Especially with this past week I watched Wolfman and then Back in
Hmm.
Action, that new Netflix Cameron Diaz Jamie Foxx
Oh,
movie,
yes.
and I didn't really like either one of them for far
Yeah.
different reasons.
Yeah.
But the Netflix movie was like, oh, this is a Netflix streaming movie. That's all this is. It wasn't trying to be anything else. It wasn't really that interesting. It was regurgitating a lot of the same things that you see with Netflix now. And I don't know, did you see that thing that was kind of going a little viral where Netflix put out an ordinance where it's essentially um, the executives have told writers that their characters need to announce pretty much everything they're doing for people that are
Oh
scrolling on their
my,
phones or, doing laundry. So
no.
it's so people can follow along with the movie. And then so when I watched this new one, I was like, this is like unbelievable. Like everything. They're like, hey, I'm approaching the
No.
door. I'm opening the door. It's like, yeah. So they're doing that now. And once I heard that, it was like, the tape gets lifted off your eyes and you can't unsee it.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Yeah,
That's terrible.
it
I would
really is.
hate to think that movies are going in that direction where they're like, oh, we really need to appeal to people that are scrolling on their phones.
Yeah,
If I'm scrolling on my phone during a movie or TV show, then it's not worth watching.
it's not. Yeah, I agree
I
with
put
you.
my phone away. If I go to reach for my phone, then I'm like, okay, then I'm not enjoying this because I really make an effort to make sure that like my phone is out of reach. And if
Right.
I'm reaching for it, then I know there's something not grabbing me about this. But
Uh-huh.
it shouldn't be on a list of things that streamers are trying to do now where it's like, oh, well, we still need to appeal to the people scrolling on their phone.
Yeah,
It's like, no, just make better content so we're not scrolling on our phone.
I agree.
Yeah.
100% with you there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, and I also think that there are good movies out there, but the marketing budgets for them or
I know.
people have a really, I don't know if you feel this way, but people are really having a hard time going to the movies and going to see things.
Yeah.
People are like, I don't want to spend the money, I don't want to spend the effort. What if the movie's bad and I just paid this money or I went all the way there to go see it? And they're like, I'd rather just watch it at home. But then when you go to watch something at home, there's so much choice that some of the good movies kind of get, muddled into that. And
Yeah.
I want everyone to go and see Honora. And
Oh man,
Honora is one of the best movies that's come out. And it's funny and it's great. It's got everything. I'm like, go see Honora, please. Like, that's
absolutely.
actually such a good movie. And it's really interesting the fact that people A say there's no good movies, but B also don't go to the theater to go see them.
I
It's
agree.
just yeah, it's getting harder and that's why I think people like us have created these channels or created these avenues where it's like we're trying to help make it easier to kind of so that when you turn on the TV, you know exactly what you're going to watch because hopefully somebody who's A in the industry or B has watched a million things for you
Hmm.
it can tell you, hey, this is worth checking out. Or if you like the things that I like, you're going to like these things.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I saw you say on social media last week, or maybe not too long ago, that Honor just came out where you are too, right?
Yeah, it came out in Australia mid-January, I think. Or no, sorry, end of December. I think
End
one
of
of my
December.
followers, but it came out in the US in like October. I think
Yeah,
I posted everything coming out in October. And so many people are like, Honora, Honora, Honora. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not out here in Australia yet. I have to wait months to see it, which was so devastating. But um, it's interesting the different release dates. I think with Australia, it's here because it's our summer. They only want to release certain things because everyone's at the beach or everyone's out doing things. So they don't want to release certain movies right before summer or during summer. So I think a lot of things got pushed, but that means that there's so many movies to go and see because they've kind of pushed all of it. So I've seen Nosferatu, Anora. I really want to go see The Brutalist, A
yeah.
Real Pain. There's some
Oh, you
really
haven't
good
seen Real
movies
Pain
out
yet?
there. No, see
Yeah,
that came out I think this month as well.
yeah.
It's hard. I'm falling behind.
No, I get it. I haven't seen The Brutalist yet because that movie's
Yeah.
actually been pretty hard to find over in my neck of the woods. I didn't get any early
Okay.
screenings or anything like that.
Okay.
But have you been paying attention to any of the controversy coming out about that movie?
Oh no. About the
So
Brutalist?
yeah, I was actually reading about it last night. Apparently, um, they used AI through a lot of the movie, and I think it was
No.
during a lot of the Hungarian scenes that they actually used an AI to help Adrian Brody's character pronounce those words appropriately or something? Because you know you can do that now. We could transcribe this conversation in Chinese perfectly with AI
Yeah.
afterwards, you know.
Wow.
So I guess, you know, and that's kind of frowned upon, or not kind of, it's very frowned upon now, especially with movie
Absolutely.
with film loyalists. So yeah, there've definitely been some issues when it comes to that movie right now. So yeah, you should go check it out afterwards.
I
And
will,
it's,
absolutely. And didn't he just win the Golden Globe for it?
yeah, yeah.
If he
So
wins the Oscar, I think there will be problems.
yeah, there'll be problems there, and I think a lot of people are going after the director too because it was his call, and he was like, "Hey, listen, this is a really complicated language." Because from what I understand, like Hungarian and Russian and stuff, you can only speak them perfectly if you're actually like born and raised there. It's not
Yeah.
really it's not really a language that you just come into like English, where you can eventually learn how to say it and speak it. You know, I know plenty of foreign born people who speak perfect English, but Russian and Hungarian in particular are very difficult languages to fully grasp unless you're just like born and raised there. So
But don't you think that the majority of people that wouldn't go, like, they would go see this movie would never know that,
no,
except for the people that are actually from those countries, and they would be like, I mean, I don't want to speak for anybody, but it would be like if the accent wasn't completely correct, I wouldn't be
mhm,
like, oh, well, that's terrible.
right,
That's a terrible movie. I just think for the masses who are watching that movie, it's okay. Look how many TV shows we watch that, say, for example, Chernobyl. That show was all in English.
yeah,
They were not speaking English. We watch a lot of shows where or look at Shogun.
yeah,
Shogun is meant to be Portuguese, and they're like, but they're going to speak English, but just pretend it's Portuguese.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, we're
yeah,
so used to this, we're so accustomed to it that I feel like it is not the end of the world. I feel like that's not a good enough excuse to use AI.
yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And did you watch Late Night with the Devil? Because I know that caught a lot of flack for using
I did.
AI photos there. And I
Yeah,
mean, I totally understand people's especially the industry, like their
yep,
perspectives. You're putting people out of work just for
yeah,
you know that you can make something quickly. So
yep,
yeah, there's a big pushback against it, and I'm interesting. And so like I think the problem that people are having with the brutalist is they're like, this is the slippery slope where people just kind of eventually say, oh no, it was fine in that one movie. And
exactly.
then you utilize it in another one. It's like, oh no, it's fine. And so eventually it just becomes the norm, and the industry has 10 people working in it essentially. So I
I
don't
think we have to stay strong on this one. I think
yeah,
we have to, as a community, have to keep calling it out and keep talking about it and ensuring that they don't keep using AI. And I think in a world where we know that some things are going to be, that AI is going to be utilized, I
mhm,
think in the TV and movie world, we just have to stay strong on that one and
yeah.
keep talking about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, so
Mhm.
that might make some interesting reading for you a little bit later.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for telling me about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's
Wow.
see. We got oh yeah, so here let's pull up that next story. Mm-mm. There we go. All right.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So we had legendary David Lynch passed on to the next plane, and on was it Thursday, Wednesday, or Thursday? I think it was
Yeah.
Thursday, a few days ago.
Yeah.
So I was just gonna gauge. Are you a big Lynch fan? Yeah, I just wanted to kind of touch and see what your thoughts on this were.
Yeah, you know what's really interesting is I think because some of his big things were before my time, which is
Yeah,
no
me too.
excuse, which
Yeah.
is no excuse, you know. I haven't watched a lot of his stuff, but
Really?
I did watch the pilot for Twin Peaks.
Okay.
Finally, okay, finally. I've had so many people over the years recommend you gotta watch Twin Peaks, you gotta watch it,
Uh,
and I go, oh, it's from 1990. I don't know. Older TV shows are a little bit harder for me. I can watch old movies, it's an hour and a half, but committing to older TV
yeah.
shows, I always get nervous about, but then I thought, oh, this is a good excuse. I really liked the pilot. I really liked it. It was an hour and a half,
Yep.
but it was so strange and weird, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. I am excited to keep watching it. But I think the only movie of his that I've seen is Mulholland Drive,
Okay. And you know that
which
was
I'm
actually
still,
supposed to be a TV series too.
was it?
Yeah, actually, so he filmed. I don't know if he filmed multiple episodes or if it was just a pilot, but essentially it was supposed to go to, I think, ABC or something, and they weren't digging it.
Wow.
So then David Lynch eventually got into a battle with him and was just like, you know what, just give it to me, and I'm just gonna make a movie out of it. So yeah,
Don't you find it so interesting that, a film director who's had quite, he had quite
yep,
a bit of success with some of his older movies, transition into TV when it's like TV, especially back then, was sort of like the lower end of media. Like
yep,
everyone was like, oh, you want to be a movie star, or you want to make movies.
yeah.
And so it's actually, he's such an interesting person to be like, no, I want to make this into a TV show. Or when he did Twin Peaks, I mean, people must have been like, it must have blown their minds that
Mhm.
this movie director wanted to do TV.
Yeah, you know what? You're onto something there. That's interesting because I remember, I think it changed when Kiefer Sutherland started doing 24. I was
Yeah,
when people started, I think, taking television seriously, or at least like actors in any
yeah.
instance. But yeah, you're right. David Lynch always kind of had a fascination with television, and
That's so cool.
yeah, and if you haven't, go down that journey of Twin Peaks, 'cause that's one of my favorite series ever. But it had the series, and then it had a movie, and then like 20 years later, it had that Showtime
Yeah.
where it came back, and that's mixed with a lot of people. I really liked it. It was a lot of fun to see. But yeah, the first two seasons of that are some of my favorite things of television ever. So David Lynch. I mean, it's just
Well,
like when you say his name, I feel like it's like you know exactly the vibe of that.
Well, that's the thing. It's like it must have been because and we get a taste of it now because there's so many film directors that also do TV,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And that seems like very normal to us, and we get these beautiful television shows from the mind of a film director. But back then, that's why I mean, obviously the concept of Twin Peaks people absolutely loved, but then you had this incredible film director do TV, and I think people would have appreciated that so much. And it's funny that it didn't catch on until later. Like he was so ahead of his time to be like, no, I'm bringing the concept of film into television. And I felt that when I watched the pilot, I was like, oh, this feels like one of his movies.
Right.
So I mean, that's probably why people loved it so much, and I'm so excited to keep watching it. It's so funny. I went to go watch the newer Twin Peaks because I thought it might have been like a remake or something. I
Oh,
went on I went on Reddit. They're like, do not do that.
yeah, yeah.
Do
You're gonna be
not.
very confused.
You're gonna be so lost.
Yeah.
Go back. I was like, oh, okay, God, thank God I didn't do that. Jeez. And so yeah, so I'm really excited to kind of dive more into his older movies. What are some of your favorites? Like, what would you recommend for anyone listening that isn't a huge David Lynch fan but wants
Yes.
to get into
My
it?
absolute favorite of his is Blue Velvet.
I've
Yeah.
heard that. I've heard Blue
Okay.
Velvet's great.
Yeah, Dennis Hopper's so good in it. He plays like one of the best antagonists in any movie ever.
Hmm.
He has some of the best one-liners, and it's
Cool.
oddly enough. I mean, the story's very disturbing, but oddly enough, it's like the least David Lynch film, if that makes any sense. It's
Okay.
not. There's not a whole lot of weirdness to it, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Um, but one that is beyond weird that I absolutely love is Wild at Heart with Nicolas
Okay.
Cage.
Okay. Yes, I'm hit or miss with Nicholas, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's essentially, well, I think this is early to mid 90s, maybe. You might need to fact check me on that, but it's essentially David Lynch's version of The Wizard of Oz. So
oh, okay,
yeah,
cool.
it's a great movie. It's out there. That's so when people ask, what's what's like the most David Lynch movie, I think Wild at Heart is up there. uh,
Okay, cool.
yeah, and if you want, his first big breakout was Eraserhead. That movie's so weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Elephant Man is great. Uh,
Yeah, I've heard a lot of Elephant Man, Eraserhead, and Mulholland Drive.
yeah, Blue Velvet for sure.
Okay.
Is my favorite of his. What else? Oh, Lost Highway. That movie's
Okay.
crazy. Um, and it's one of those
Cool.
movies where people say they understand it, and I don't believe them.
Yeah.
It's it's such a mind trip of a movie because it's a pretty straightforward movie until it's not,
Mm,
and then you're like,
yeah.
what is actually happening in this movie? Yeah. So,
That's how I felt after Mulholland Drive. I was like, wait, okay, hold on. Wait, okay. I'm gonna have to Google this because
yeah.
I think I've missed something. Or so, where would you rank Mulholland Drive and
Oh,
your sort of favorites?
I'd probably put it in my top three as far
Top
as
three.
movies.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. Blue
cool.
Velvet's my absolute favorite, and then it'd
Yeah.
probably be between Mulholland Drive and Wild at Heart. But I
Okay.
mean, and the Twin Peaks movie's excellent too. So that'd be like
Yeah.
in the top five for sure. So
So so the order for Twin Peaks is obviously the show, the movie, and then
yeah,
the return.
yeah, The Return. Yeah.
Um, and is it all the same actors or like a lot of the same actors and
A lot of the
everything?
same actors. It's what's his name? Kyle MacLachlan
Yeah.
is the star of all of them. So yeah,
Cool.
and he's also in Blue Velvet. So
Oh
he's
wow. Okay.
the main dude in
I
that.
love him.
Yeah, me too. He's an interesting. He's one of those interesting actors where he can play a villain really well, but
Yes.
he can also play like a. Did you ever watch How I Met Your Mother?
Of course.
Yeah, he was the captain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
I forgot he was the
yeah.
captain. Yeah, that's right.
Or he can
That's
play kind
right.
of that smarmy, I don't know, business type pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, he actually has quite a bit of like an Instagram, TikTok following because apparently he's just like hilarious on
Oh,
there.
I didn't know that. I'll have to.
Yeah, you should go check out his stuff. He's gotten pretty famous from it because he just does this hilarious stuff.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I always love a good recommendation.
Yeah. Yeah, he's good. He's really funny.
So I wanted to
Oh.
ask you as we segue,
Mhm.
what got you into movies and stuff, and what really made you kind of want to pursue this path? Because, like I said,
Oh.
I have to say, I do this so much, and I follow people in the same realm, and we chat from time to time. Yours is just I don't know. It's I don't want to say bubbly. I don't know if that
Yeah.
sounds if that's like insulting, but yeah, it's
No, it's not.
quirky, it's comfortable, and
Yeah.
you always come with solid recommendations. So I was just
Oh,
curious
thank you.
your
I
interest in film.
It's really interesting. I have parents that love film and TV,
Mm,
love, love, love it. So, you kind of always get inspiration from your parents that take you to the movies or show you new movies.
right.
You know, I've seen a few movies probably when I was too young, but,
That's okay.
it sparked my interest in it. And then it was just something that I knew in high school. I still absolutely loved it. I knew that I wanted to get into the industry, and I always knew that I wanted to do something in the industry, but I didn't know what. And then I got a degree, and I didn't want to get a degree, but my mom said you have to get a degree just in case the film and TV thing doesn't work out.
Sure. That's a
But then I
scary
heard,
proposition for parents when you say I'm going to
yes,
pursue this path.
yeah, absolutely. And so I purposely took courses that were all around movie, TV, advertising, sort of everything. Um, and yeah, and then I just got a really good opportunity in Australia to work in the TV
Oh,
industry.
that's cool.
And yeah, and then I had so many friends and that pushed me into, they were like, you watch so much and you recommend so much and you have such a passion for it. Like, why don't you do something online? And my best friend was like, you need to start posting on TikTok. Like, you need to start channeling this for other people because she's like, and so what I did was on my Instagram, I just would post the kind of TV news on my personal Instagram for like 3 years. I just kept posting and people kept coming up to me and they were like, oh, I love your Instagram. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I was like, okay, well, maybe there's something here. I was so nervous though. I don't think that people understand how hard it is, not necessarily like hard from a job perspective to do this, but it is hard to put yourself out there and to film yourself and to be confident. And some of my earlier videos, I'm just like, right when I put the camera up, I thought, oh no, I don't know if I want to do
Yeah,
this. I don't
right.
know. Because
It's easy to
you
be
go
behind the
blank.
camera.
Yeah, and even now, I've been doing it for less than a year, but even now I create scripts or I know what I want to say, and then when the camera goes up, I forget everything. And I'm like, oh, and that's why I've been posting some of my, my bloopers and things like that because people find it hilarious. But it's like, yeah, but that's how long it takes.
Yeah, it does. It's
And
not easy.
it's not easy. And I know there was this whole sort of thing online. I don't know if you would have seen it. It was there was the TikTok Awards here in Australia,
Oh wow, no, I didn't see
and yeah, and people were interviewing the content creators and saying, "Do you think being an influencer is hard, or do you think your job is hard?" And it was very split. Some people said yes, some people said no, and the people that said yes got ripped apart online. They're like, "Your job's not hard." And I was like, yes, of course, compared to certain jobs out there,
that.
absolutely. Recording yourself on your phone is not hard. But I think putting yourself out there and the mental side of it can be difficult. I
Sure.
mean, it's not to say that it's more harder than other jobs. That's not it. But yeah, but I have been really enjoying it. And I think people get that from my videos is I'm so happy to share this. And you're probably the same. I get messages from people from around the world that say, thank you so much for recommending this show. I
Yep.
got such a beautiful message from someone who said, I'm a single mom with 2 kids and I have no idea what to watch when I finally get to relax and I go on your page and you've helped me watch so many great shows to unwind. I
Yeah.
wanted to cry. I was like, that's so nice. That's exactly, and it motivates you. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, people want this, people use this. So yeah, it's been really kind of nice discovering that kind of long journey of being in the industry and still being in the industry, but then also being really passionate about it. That's a
Yeah.
very long-winded answer.
Oh no, I appreciate it. It was, you clearly like talking about it, so
Yeah.
I think that shows. Um, yeah,
But
I
what
mean, I
about
can
you?
tell.
How do you feel with I know because you're in the TV industry too and you do the content creation. So how do you feel about the balance of both and what motivates you or what drives you to continue to do the content creation when you do work in the industry already?
Yeah, so I mean, when I initially started my Instagram page, I was just a faceless voice that gave like 10-second reviews. I was like,
Mm,
oh, no one has attention span because I took a long hiatus from social media. I thought it was kind of, uh, I think especially like once COVID hit, I was like, oh man, this thing is just it's gotten too big for itself. And I think it fries people's brains. I just needed kind of a mental break from it. So I was off of it for a few years. And then I've always watched a ton of movies and I found my interest in movies kind of declining a little bit.
mm-hmm.
Um, because I used to be that guy. People when I went to film school, they used to call me a walking IMDb. Like I knew everything about movies, and I could tell you the actors who was in it, who produced it, wrote it, yada yada yada.
Mm,
But then I found I guess the spark wasn't there. And then one day I was watching a movie, and I was like, I don't remember which one, and that's the sad part. But it was great, and I was like, I don't think that there's a quality problem in Hollywood. I think there's a quantity problem.
mm-hmm.
And I was really into TV shows at that time. And I was like, TV has become what movies used to be. This is the
Yeah,
best medium to tell a
absolutely.
story, to really flesh out characters, to get to know them, to
Mm-hmm.
get really wrapped up in what's happening in it. And then I just started to go back and watch all the popular movies from that year, and I started talking about them, and then my growing started to really blossom. And so I was talking to somebody, and it was like, "Yeah, man, you when you make videos that's really good quality, you should just put your face out there." And I started that a little over a year ago, where I did my editing style and put it out there. But now, what drives me is I'm really interested to see. I had that spark again for movies,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
and like we were talking about earlier, I don't I don't want to say annoyed, but I hear so many people nowadays. They're like, "Oh, I hate going to the movies," or
Mm,
they don't make good movies anymore. And I'm like, I disagree strongly. They do make too much, and there's certain things like we were talking about with Netflix earlier. Like there's problems for sure. Uh,
absolutely.
but so like I think you and I briefly spoke about Wicked when that came out, and I had no expectations walking into that movie. I actually didn't even
Mm-hmm.
want to see it. Um, and then I was gobsmacked. It blew me away. I absolutely loved it. And I had my oldest daughter with me, and she was like, it was it was one of those experiences you have that only the movies can give you. And to me, for a
Yeah.
while there, I lost myself in it, and I was like, see, this is what the magic of the movies is. I still get that feeling when I'm watching a
Mm-hmm.
good immersive movie that nothing else replicates it. You know,
Yeah.
you're in awe of how it was created, but also the world that they've built. So I still like to, you know, experience that, even though, you know, I do sit through a lot of bad movies. I mean, there's no denying that. And I'm sure you do too.
Yes.
But um, yeah, it's just I think that's my motivation. So you know, I have a full-time regular job, and I hear all the time, they're like, hey, you know, how do you find the time to do it? And I'm like, I just do it. You know,
Yeah.
I don't really think about it. I try to spend time with my kids as much time as I can, but I also try to focus on this and my regular job. And
Yeah.
so far for the last couple years, nothing's really gotten in the way. So you know, but I do miss out on certain things. You know, I don't get to travel a whole bunch, and I don't see my friends as much as I used to. But you know, we're all busy dads at this point in time, so we
Yeah.
just
And you know what, the traveling thing is very interesting because I did some traveling in December, and I still tried to pre-record as many videos as I
work.
could and still tried to post when but I also really wanted to take a bit of a break as
That's
well because I was taking a break from work, taking a break from social
yeah.
media, also spending time with family in Canada. Um, and wow, you really notice the difference.
Mhm.
My follower count started going down.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, I know the sort of the mantra is post every day, you have to be consistent and
Yeah.
all these things. But I really felt it in December where I thought, oh, wow, no, this is like something that I really, if I want it to continue to grow and I want, to reach people, it does have to
There's
be
no
every
off days.
day.
Yeah.
There's no off days.
Yeah.
There's no taking breaks. I mean, you can take breaks, but it's like, it made a huge difference in my content and I could tell. But you have to experience all these things. You have to, test out what's going to work and what's
Yeah.
not going to work. And so that was a huge learning lesson for me. It's like, oh no, people really do care if you put content out
Yeah.
and they will unfollow you very
Oh, yeah.
easily if you don't.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I went through that in December. I was so crazy busy with my actual job, and then
Mm,
my whole family's birthdays basically in December is like my daughter's birthday, my dad's birthday, my brother's birthday, my sister's birthday. Like seriously, it's everybody's birthday. So
yeah.
there's a lot of birthdays, there's a lot of family get-togethers and things like that. And so eventually, I was just like, you know, I agree with you. Like you do have to put the content out there, but I don't beat myself up about it too much if I miss something.
No.
Like I
Yeah.
pre-recorded a bunch of videos that I wanted to post on YouTube, like my best of, my worst of, some underrated movies that you may not have seen this year, um,
Yep.
things of that nature. And I was only able to publish my best of because and then I got to the point where I was like starting to stress myself out about getting the other two done, but I was so busy with other things that I was like, you know what? I'm just not gonna bother with it, and I'm just gonna get back once the new year starts, hit the movie reviews, and move forward with that. So, yeah, I
Well,
totally agree. Like sometimes you just need to take a break, otherwise, if just for your own mental well being.
yeah, and I think that people don't realize that most of us who are content creators, well, when we're building our platforms, do have jobs on top of
Top
this.
of it, yeah,
And so I think that content creators that are incredibly popular do have the little bit of a luxury of, waking up and this is their job. Content
sure.
creation is their job. I would love for it to be my job.
Oh yeah, me
I
too.
would love to not be able to have to do my 9 to 5 and this on top of it, because
Yeah,
then that's where things get complicated. But yeah, it's really fun. And I always told myself that when I started this, when it stopped being fun, then
yeah,
I'm not going to do it.
yep,
I really want it to be fun. And even though, we talked about it earlier, sort of negative comments and negative feedback from people, I don't let that stop me because I think the positive outweighs the negative.
sure.
But still,
I
it can get you down a little bit.
I know, yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're only human, right? But
Yeah.
I think that's a healthy mindset to have because
Yeah.
um, if there's anything I've learned is that consistency is the key. And you know, it's what's funny is talking about movies, you come across some wild ass spectrum of fandom. You never
Yeah.
know what movie you might like where people will be like, how much were you paid to say that you like that movie? Because it was ass, bro. Or you know, if you don't like something that has a really big fan base, like for instance, the latest Hellboy movie that came out, it was like a straight
Hmm.
to digital release. And
Yeah.
I was like, whatever, you know, I don't have any context walking into the movie. I just saw that it was another Hellboy movie. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And man, you would have thought that like I stepped on their favorite pet. You know, people are like, bro,
Really?
you didn't even read the source material, so you have no idea what you're talking about. Like, how are you going to rate a movie if you never read the graphic comic that it was based on? And I was
Oh
like,
my
did you read Lord of the
God.
Rings before you watched it? And you're like, that's such a silly argument, but I have fun with it too because I
Yeah.
do get a lot of bad comments and things of that nature. But I just, you know, I was telling my kids about it. I was like, you know, there's a reason I don't let them on the internet. I was like, because, you know, I was like, I'm a middle-aged man. I can handle what
Yeah.
dummy dumb says something on online. I'm like, you'll take that stuff personally. You know,
Oh yeah.
that's why I don't think it's a good place for you guys to be at this stage of your life. So
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I think that's why I also started it a little bit later in my 30s because I think that I have more of the mental strength to be
sure,
able to
more the Teflon
handle.
skin.
Yeah. But one thing that, one review that I did that it was very hard to gauge people's feelings on it was Gladiator,
The
Gladiator
newest one,
2.
yeah.
Yes, the newest one because I like the original.
Hmm.
I'm not obsessed with the original.
Okay.
I didn't realize how many people that and there are so many people that feel so passionately about the original.
Yeah.
How
I'm one
much
of
they
them.
would have,
Yeah.
yeah, and how much they might have disliked the second one. And
Mhm.
I didn't, so the thing is, because I went to the premiere of it, had it in my mind, I did the review, I waited till the embargo, did the review, and I say in the review, I'm like, I would be really shocked if you went into this and didn't like it.
Right.
I was wrong. I was wrong. There were lots of people
That
that
didn't
went and
like
did
it.
not like it.
Yeah.
Exactly, because and what I should have said in my review is that but it's hard to gauge, right? Because
Right.
I didn't know because I'm not someone who was obsessed with the original, it's
Right.
impossible for me to know that if you were obsessed with the original, you probably won't like this. So I got an earful from some of my friends who were like,
Yeah.
I actually really didn't like it, Paige. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I am sorry. I should have. And every review that I do is like a bit of a learning curve. It's like, oh yeah, I have to realize like, okay, it's hard. It's hard. It's
Sure.
one of those things where it's like, and then when I almost deleted the review. I
Really?
almost got
No, don't
so
do that.
yeah, exactly. I almost got so nervous about it though, because I was like, I don't want people to think it's hard to not get in your head sometimes about like, I enjoyed it. I felt it was entertaining, but it was one of those things where I get so nervous that people who are huge fans of things,
Sure.
Marvel, Star Wars, all of these people will just absolutely boycott you because of that. And I realize that's not the case. I realize that everyone likes to say their opinion and their piece, but they still follow me, they still comment. It's okay. It's all fine.
Yeah.
But that was one review that I just felt like, oh, I missed the mark for a certain demographic or a certain person. And that's the only review that I think about sometimes that I overanalyze where I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But everything else, as you pointed out, I mean, like I said before, it's hard. It's hard for me to shit on movies because
Yeah.
I really do try to see the good in everything. And either people like that kind of style review or they don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I have a little bit of both. Like I actually, when I saw Gladiator, I gave it a positive review, and
Mm,
it was so mixed. People either loved it or hated it.
yeah.
But then I went back and watched it again, and I was like, all right, I totally see what a lot of people problems that a lot of
I'll
people have with this movie.
I'll
Because
probably feel the same way.
I wasn't expecting it to be the first one, you know. And I
Yeah,
was like, and Ridley Scott, that dude's pushing 90, and he's
I
just
know.
his movies as of late have just been kind of
No, yeah,
getting more batshit insane, I guess you could say, as they've gone
yeah,
on. But I kind of like that about him. He feels almost like a rogue filmmaker at this point. So I kind of like that
totally.
aspect of him, where he's just like, I don't know if you saw, but Tarantino's gearing up for his last movie, and
Hmm.
someone asked Ridley Scott about it. And this is what I love about him is that he was just like, whatever, bro, like just shut up and make more movies. Like I don't care. He's become this curmudgeonly old Englishman, and I'm here for it. So I think
Yeah, because he has nothing to lose at this point. He's Ridley fucking Scott.
yeah,
He's just like, I've
exactly.
got nothing to lose. I'm going to say what I want to say. It is what it is. I love people that get to that point of their celebrity or their,
Mhm.
where they just go rogue
Yeah,
because they
and
can.
I love it about him. I was talking the guy I had on here last week was telling me, and I just saw this, but on his letterbox, in one of his top four movies, he has Blade Runner, and I was like, dude, only Ridley Scott is like, if any other director put one of their movies in their top four on
I
Letterbox,
love
be
that
like, what a
so much.
pretentious douche, but like he does it, and I'm like, that's amazing.
I think if Quentin Tarantino, he would put probably at least one of his movies because he has always said that he makes movies that he wants to see.
Yeah.
And he goes and sees his movies. I think he said after his 10th, or maybe he's already done this, that he wants to just open a movie theater that continuously play his movies.
Oh, really? That's such a Tarantino thing to say.
So it's just, he's made them for him. Like, I think that's why in interviews and stuff, it's very much like when people criticize his movies, he's like, I don't care. I made this for me.
Yeah.
I'm happy that people love it, but I made this, I make it for me, which
Yeah.
I think is a good mentality to have.
Yeah, yeah. What do they always say? Make something, make something that you'd want to watch.
100%. And
Yeah,
that's what I think we have to do too with our content.
yeah.
We have to
Well,
create things that we know
you and
that
me are
we
going to be the
like
ones
it.
that watch our content the most, right? Because there's not
Yes.
only do we have to record it, write it, watch
We
the
have to
movie.
edit
That's the thing
it.
that people understand. They're like, like I at least once or twice a week I go to the movie theaters to see a movie, and then I
Yes.
have to think about the movie, and then I have to write about the movie, and then I have to
Yeah.
film my thoughts about the movie, and then I have to sit down and edit it all together to fit certain social media platforms because
Yeah.
YouTube just opened up their shorts section, and I try to keep my reviews pretty short and succinct, but
Yeah.
they just opened up their shorts section to make it 3 minutes now.
Oh,
but
wow.
but you get so many less views the longer the longer your
Ah,
shorts are. So it's like I
yeah.
still try to keep them within a minute,
Oh, yeah.
because the algorithm loves it. If the shorter you keep it, the more they'll push your stuff. So
Yeah.
anyway, well, yeah, no, that was a great chat. I love hearing other people's perspective on things, and it's
Yeah.
funny because we can all relate to one another when it comes to we have to put in the work outside of the work in order for it
Yeah.
to work. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, all right. Let's see. I had one more thing I wanted to bring up here. Oh, so I know you post a bunch of stuff about TV. Did you see this? So I didn't know, um, coming back
Oh.
that there was going to be another season. I thought they were done.
No, I did. Okay. So I did hear this. I did hear that they were coming back, but not with Ted Lasso.
Yeah. So
Uh,
I'm confused. So I mean, I watched the last season. I was like, oh well, they said it was their last, and they made it seem like it. But now they're shooting. They're essentially doing another season. So I didn't know if you had any knowledge into what's happening here. But yeah, I guess
I
he's
think,
doing some stuff for it.
yeah. So I think that, oh, what's her name? Hannah, um,
Oh, the
what's her
shame
name?
lady from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Maddie?
Yes.
Is it what?
She, yeah, it's something
Yeah,
W
it's very
something.
British.
Um, when they announced that there potentially could be a fourth one, she was asked about it, and she said, "Oh, it's being discussed," but she's like, "That doesn't mean anything," which is true,
Yeah.
right? We know this. We know that just
Hmm.
because there's a discussion, it doesn't mean anything. But if they're filming, that'll be interesting because it's funny. I wanted to make a video about this, and I was talking to a few friends about it. The problem with TV nowadays is that if a show is incredibly popular, then and it was only meant to be a certain amount of seasons, or it's only meant to be a limited series. If
Right.
it's incredibly popular and it brings people to that streaming site is going to push for multiple seasons of
Yep.
it. And that's why we're getting extra seasons of like Squid Game. Stranger Things was only meant to be one season. It's
Was it
all these
really?
shows.
I thought it was always
Yes.
planned to be 5 seasons, but
Well,
okay.
yeah. So I read an article saying that it was originally well, they probably had plans, but originally they were like,
Just one season.
we don't know what this show's going to be. And at White Lotus was only meant to be one season.
I knew that. Yeah.
Fargo was only meant to be one season.
Yeah.
And it just gets pushed and pushed and pushed, and which is a good thing, right? Because some of our favorite shows, I'm so glad that they made multiple seasons. But then other shows, I'm like, you should have just left it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like with Ted Lasso, I'm worried about it because one of the big reasons we all love it is because of Jason Sudeikis as Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
So I worry about it because I also didn't think that the third season was as strong in Ted
It was.
Lasso.
It was. The second season was phenomenal. So season 3 was.
So I feel like you're bringing back a show without the character that we all love, coming off of kind of a not the best season. So I'm curious, I'm interested, but yeah, it's one of those things that I'm not sure it's always the best move to keep pushing these shows on us when they might not need it. I mean, one thing that I absolutely love and hate is that Succession was only 4 seasons.
Yeah.
And I think that they ended it perfectly because it didn't need any more. They had told enough story, even though I love that show and I would give anything for it to come back, but I understand it. I actually think it's better to have shorter seasons because I do think creates a stronger story. So it'll be interesting with Ted Lasso.
So I agree with you for the most part. The one thing that I actually was telling someone the other day is that I miss so one of my favorite shows ever is Buffy. And I don't know if did you ever watch Buffy?
I am just, you know what though? I have lots of friends that watch Buffy.
Uh-huh.
I was just slightly not the age.
Right. I was right.
Where I didn't want, I was just slightly too young for it. And then by the time like some of my friends started watching it, I was like, oh no, I'm not going to watch it. So I missed out. I absolutely missed out. I know that.
Well, it's funny if you go back and watch it now. The first season and parts of the second season, you can tell there was like kind of a shift that happened. The first season's so corny. A lot of people have really big problems with it. I think it's fun because it was basically Monster of the Week for the first season. But when it started to get really good, it's one of the most immersive, well-written shows that's ever happened. And some people will say, well, that's ridiculous. There's a show called Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's such a ridiculous name as a title for a show. But the writing and the character development in that show is some of the best I've ever seen. It holds up to this day. And that's one of the things I miss is back then, you know, all the television shows had 22, 23 episodes somewhere around there. And I was like, you really got to know these characters to where you felt like you were almost friends with these people. And I do appreciate series like Breaking Bad where it's like they ended where they need to end it. Or The Sopranos where they're like they ended it where they needed to end it. Even The Wire, you know, like those 3 shows are the ones that's always most talked about. But with something like Buffy, it's like, yeah, maybe it went on a season or two too long. But that's something you could debate about because they still had all the characters in there. They still had you know, you still really felt like almost like you were part of their family, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So I do miss some of that, like in Star Trek: The Next Generation or the X-Files. Like I loved that I got to watch almost 25 episodes of those shows back in the day.
Yeah, that's true. That style of TV is gone.
It's done. Yeah.
It is done. Well and truly done. I'm trying to think of anything that's been longer than say 12 episodes.
Yeah. No. I mean, the last thing that I think I really enjoyed that was longer than that was probably Supernatural, but that was years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Supernatural went on for a very long time. Oh my gosh.
Too long. They should have ended that show like 5 or 6 seasons. But
it's so I wonder, do you think, I mean, there's some elements that are slowly transitioning. I mean, they're bringing ads. There's, you know, you can get Netflix and Amazon and things that have ads. So they're slowly kind of bringing back the ads.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if they will ever go back to a show with that 22 episodes.
They could.
Doubt it, but
there seems to be kind of a paradigm shift in Hollywood. I mean, you know, the problem right now, especially with shows, is that they're all run by these giant streaming corporations. You know, you got Amazons, and Netflixes, and stuff like that. So You know, and the problem I have with a lot of these shows too is like I was really getting into Outer Range. Did you watch that?
I didn't, because I heard mixed reviews about
Yeah.
it, and then it got
Then it
canceled, and
got
then I was like,
canceled, and I
okay,
was like, and they
yeah,
totally, and that's the thing that frustrates me to no end is like you start getting into a show, then they're like, oh, it's canceled. I'm like,
yeah,
what's the point of even watching some of these things? Because Outer Range
exactly.
was a very interesting show. It was kind of like Yellowstone meets a David Lynch time loop movie or something, you know,
Cool.
to bring that.
Yeah, I've heard good things. I
Yeah.
honestly did, and I was like, oh, I had it on the list for a while. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll check
Yeah.
it out, and then it
The
got
first
canceled.
season, you're kind of like, what is happening? But the second season
Mm,
was starting to really bring things full circle. I was really getting into it in second season. And then it's just like,
yeah.
all right, well, I have no idea what happens in that show. So
Oh, yeah, that would be annoying. I
yeah,
hate
that's
when if they
I
cancel
hate when they
something
do
that's
that.
on
And
a
the other
cliffhanger.
problem I'm having with a lot of television now is like Stranger Things dropped its first season in 2016. And now I'm like,
Yeah,
those kids are like, they could collect Social Security at this point, you know?
I
Like,
know, I
I'm
know.
like, does anybody even care anymore? They're going into the fifth season. Like, you know, it's hard to
I know.
really be excited. I mean, I am excited for the next season, but it's
Yeah,
like
me too.
if it had come out 5 years ago when it should have, then I would have been far more excited. So it's just like there's these gaps between next seasons because they throw so much money at television shows anymore. I do kind of miss
Yeah,
the serial aspect of it where it was like so what used to be in Hollywood is like you got a television, they gave you a 20 episode order, you filmed them, and then like 2 weeks from then the show aired. So that's
yeah,
the special effects and all that were crappy, but
yeah,
at least you got a show. And now it's like you have to
yeah.
wait for so long. You because I don't even remember what happened in the last season of Stranger Things. You know, it's like
Oh,
you got
oh,
to
tell
go
me
back
about
and watch it
it.
all again. So
Oh my gosh. I feel, I mean, but that's the part that always kind of blows my mind is like when a show finds such success, you would think that they would prioritize making sure that show comes out consistently,
yeah,
especially something like Stranger Things. I know Stranger Things got quite a bit of a delay from the strike.
strike. Yeah,
Because I think we were supposed to get that at least, I think we were supposed to get it last year.
we were.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but the thing is too is, well, one thing that I wanted to point out back about the 22 episodes
Mhm.
was I do also feel like maybe actors don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, they got so many. They got their hand in so many different pots now.
Yes, and
Yeah,
I think some actors would because they would love the consistent work
of
and they
course.
would love to, it's like they know that they're going there for 22 episodes. It's going to take a big chunk of time, especially if the show's successful, then you know you're coming back for another season. But it locks you into that. It locks you into that character, and I think so many actors find success on TV now that they branch out. I mean, look at Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
I mean, with Parks and Rec and sometimes these people have been discovered on TV. Look at the entire cast of Euphoria. they
Yeah.
they have gone on to become movie stars
Yeah.
from TV. So if they're locked into these 22 episode shows, all of a sudden they're like, okay, but now I can't do other things. So I think
Mhm.
that's one thing that also might stop it.
Sure.
But going on to the wait time of TV shows, I think that's what frustrates people the most.
Yeah.
But we all still go back and we'll still watch it. There's
Yeah.
no
Like
there's no
Severance.
repercussions.
Yeah.
Severance is one of them. Severance too long.
Too
Too
long.
long.
3 years.
That's too long.
Too long.
This is embarrassing, but when we watched the first episode, I literally wanted to like cry. I could feel tears that I was just so excited that it was back. And
Uh-huh.
I was just like, we have been waiting so long and the biggest cliffhanger you can ever imagine. And I just was just so happy it was back. But there's no repercussions with them
Oh,
waiting because
I
I bet you anything Severance did so well for them, and look at Squid Game series 2.
know.
You can bet Stranger Things season 5 is going to have
Gigantic.
huge viewership.
Yeah.
So there's no repercussions. And so that's the problem is that Hollywood's like, oh, well, you guys are still going to keep watching it. You're not going to boycott it no
Yeah.
matter how long it takes.
And I think what's interesting about that too is those streaming services are very because you know TV used to be all based on the ratings, like 20 million people
Hmm.
tuned in to watch this episode or whatever. And now they don't release any of that stuff. They'll just tell you how many hours a certain show is
Yeah,
watched or something like that. So,
watched.
but that they also are backed behind them. They got so much money to support these shows and things. So
Yeah,
that's why when, you know, a show like Outer Range comes out and they're like, oh, so just cancel it. I don't want to throw any more money at that show. No one's watching.
that's literally it.
But,
They
yeah. Go ahead.
They also check how many people signed up or signed
Yep.
back up to the
Yep.
streamer side based on the show.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So
That is
if
crazy.
people don't come back and sign back up, then they'll cancel the show.
Well, and that's what
And
that's Netflix's sneaky little trick is they'll be like, hey, here's part one of this show.
mhm.
Like they did with Stranger Things. They were like, oh, here, we'll release part one. And then a few months later, we'll release part two just because they want to keep people subscribed to the
Yes.
network. So, yeah.
But I don't mind the part one, part two if they drop all the episodes. How many shows are we watching weekly now?
I know. That was
So
the thing. I was like, why don't, because Netflix was actually talking about doing that. And I was like, just,
don't.
yeah.
Please don't. It's the only streaming site that you know when the show's coming out. It's either going to be part one. Okay, fine. They give you quite a few episodes though to
Yeah.
binge. It's exciting. Um, it's funny though. You know, I posted a video a while ago because Fallout, Amazon dropped all the
All at
episodes.
once. Yeah. And some people were pissed about
Loved it. I loved it. I
it.
was so happy to binge it. I couldn't get enough of it. I feel
Oh, yeah.
like there's some shows that I actually really don't like watching week to week because
Yeah.
I feel like it takes away from the story.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are some shows that I do like watching week to
Sure.
week. So I like a bit of a balance, but I want the choice.
Yeah.
I want the
That's fair.
choice.
That's fair.
I don't. And so that's the thing. And I just know with season 2 of Fallout, they are not going to drop the entire season.
No, they're not. And
No.
I also saw that Macaulay Culkin signed on for season 2, which is crazy.
What?
Yeah, he's like making his return to acting in season 2 of Fallout. So I was like, that's awesome, dude.
Okay.
Kevin in a while.
I haven't, yeah, I think the last time he was in a season of American Horror Story,
Yes.
maybe a couple years ago now.
Yeah.
He was good though. I'll be interested to see what he brings to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of TV,
Cool.
did you finish watching season 2 of Silo?
No.
Okay.
No. Okay. So I originally was waiting. I was like, okay, I'll wait till all the episodes are out because I know
That's one of those shows
Silo is a slow burn.
Yeah. Oh man, season 2 is fantastic.
Yeah, and you know what? I think with Silo, I've recommended Silo to so many people, and we know that the first part of season 1 is a bit slow.
Mm-hmm.
And even I was like, why do people love this show so much? Am I missing something? And then the second half, you're like, oh no, I get it now. I'm invested. I'm here. So I think that's the only other part with doing the week to week. Silo, I'm like, no, I know this show. I want to watch them all together because they also like to end on cliffhangers.
Yeah, it just finished. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm going to be starting that this week. I can't wait. There were so many shows I was finishing up. I just finished Landman. I got to finish Dune Prophecy. I really like Landman.
I like Landman. I loved it. I was actually talking to someone about it. I said, I love the show. It's I don't know if you saw my review, but I said it's the best and the worst of Taylor Sheridan because there's some moments in that show that happen where I'm like, man, he's never written something like he's never been involved in something better. And then there's moments where I'm like, dude, when did this turn into a CW like pop drama? I couldn't stand the daughter stuff. It drove me insane.
This is the thing is, I'm going to be doing a review on it too. My one note is why make the daughter 17?
Yeah.
Why make her 17? Because
I was like, you trying to make that girl 17? She's like 30.
Yeah, she's 27 years old. My theory is if you're not comfortable hiring the age of the character, then you shouldn't be doing. Then don't sexualize her. Mm-hmm. Don't have her doing. But it didn't add anything to the story. Nope. It added nothing. She could have been 22. She could have been 22. You know, hot blonde, whatever, and she still could have been like a similar character, but not 17. We didn't need this like innocent kind of. I hated that part of it.
I hated it.
Now some people are on the fence about how they feel about Angela, the wife.
Ali Larter's character.
Yes.
I think I actually don't mind that as much.
Same. I actually really liked her.
One of those. She came across. So I live in Texas, and I'm like, I know plenty of women like that out here. You know, like the old, never want to work, oil baron's wife. You know, but she was a likable character.
Exactly, and you know, it's so funny. I think you know what? I think that people were commenting about her maybe didn't watch the entire show because you actually get a bit of a character development from her.
Yeah.
And you actually really grow to love her.
Yeah, the last episode, she really showed that she
Wow,
was a lot deeper than the surface level act that she was putting on.
exactly. So I feel like this is one thing that people, you can't judge a character from the beginning of a show. You have to go from the end
Yep.
and then see how you feel about them. But the other thing is too is, you know, I saw some comments on Rotten Tomatoes and stuff where people are like, oh, you know, Taylor Sheridan isn't representing women properly, or he
Oh,
isn't. And you know what? I think what bugs me about that is that Taylor Sheridan is actually known for creating some incredible female characters.
yeah.
Incredible. Beth from Yellowstone is one of my favorite characters ever. And
Mhm.
even in Landman, the lawyer is incredible. I
Yeah.
love her. And also, the Mexican
Oh
actress,
my gosh. That girl brought so
oh,
much levity, or not levity. She brought so much
oh,
heartfelt. She brought a lot of needed heart to that show,
yes.
and my wife's Mexican, so I was like, oh, I can relate to everything that dude's saying about it. I was like, that's 100% correct.
See, but see, I think people get so sensitive these days about how, which I understand about how women are represented on TV, but I also feel like Angela Kerr's character in particular does represent some women. You can't have all of these, it's almost like people want women portrayed in a certain way to kind of take back this, you know, women are great characters and we're
Mhm.
powerful. We can be all those things, but we can also
Absolutely.
be Angela. And so I feel like it's just a misnote, except I think the only thing that I think the 17-year-old hinders my
Yeah,
argument.
yeah.
And so that's the only thing, that's
I
the
didn't
only
catch
note that
that.
I would have. I
I
just,
100% agree with you on that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
honestly, Billy Bob Thornton's never been better. He was phenomenal in that show.
He
That
was
dude has such
so
weird
funny.
charisma that I
Oh
can't look
my
away from the
gosh.
screen whenever he's on it.
So that's the thing too, is I grew up with a mother who has always been obsessed with Billy Bob Thornton.
Mhm.
Always loved Billy Bob Thornton. And, you know, I get it. I like Billy Bob Thornton. I loved him in Fargo. I loved him in a lot of things. But then watching him, he's so, like, undeniably funny.
Oh
Everything
yeah.
that he says is funny in this show. And I was just like, wow, this guy is he was perfectly cast. Also, bringing back John Hamm as this businessman, which I know he's been trying to kind of avoid a little bit since Mad Men.
Mhm.
He's been trying to like, but he's so good in that
Oh,
character.
good.
He's
Yeah,
so good in it.
he's great. Demi Moore was nice in it too. She was really
Yeah, she
sweet.
was great.
She looks
I wish she
amazing.
was in it more. I
Yeah,
wish she was in
I
it a
bet.
little bit
Well,
more.
the way I mean, no spoilers, but the way they set things up at the end of the season one, I'm sure she's gonna have a much bigger
Yeah.
part in the next season, especially if
Also
she wins
not
an
to,
Oscar.
yes, and also not to spoil anything, but that reveal of one of the characters on the last episode, I actually was like, oh
Yeah, I'm
my
actually
God,
confused about that.
yes.
I'm like, did that happen, or do we need to wait till next season to see what's going
Yeah,
on here?
it's going to be interesting. I'm really excited. I
Yeah,
really like that show a lot.
and I'm sure this didn't register with you at all, but the Jerry, do you know who Jerry Jones is?
Was he the one who was giving John Hamm, he did the monologue?
Yeah, so that's the owner
He,
of the Dallas Cowboys.
I thought it was. I
Yeah,
thought it was. Okay, because when
yeah.
he was talking about it,
I just know you're
I wrote,
Canadian and living in Australia, so I wasn't sure if that
no, no,
even
no.
was I made an impression with you.
When he was talking about the Dallas Cowboys, I thought to myself, I bet you anything that's actually him.
Yeah,
That's
it
him.
was. And,
He's had such a familiar face that I
um,
was like, he doesn't seem like he's a hired actor. He seems like that's the guy.
well, and that what 2 minutes or whatever that he's in there, and so I live in Dallas, so
Yeah.
that's like
Were you
sports,
like,
sports talk radio and stuff like that are just they
yeah.
that dude's been on the register out here for a very long time, and I couldn't believe how good and unbelievable he was in
What a
just that short
strong
little role.
monologue.
It was great. I was like,
I,
wow.
yeah,
Really,
after that monologue, I turned to Jared and I was like, that was a freaking good monologue.
really,
Holy,
really, really
that was
solid stuff.
so good.
Did you
Oh,
ever
I love
see?
that show.
So speaking of Taylor Sheridan, did you ever watch Wind River?
No.
Oh, watch that. Phenomenal.
Wind River.
I,
Okay, and
so
I classify myself as a pretty big Taylor Sheridan fan.
yeah,
Wind River.
this is the first movie he directed. So he wrote it and directed
Ah,
it. So
okay.
he considers Sicario, Hell or High
Yes.
Water, and Wind
Yes.
River like a trilogy. They're not combined, but they're in the same world. Same theme.
Okay.
They're thematic trilogies, right? And so this
Cool.
one is with Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen, and they're in,
Okay, say less.
yeah.
I'm in.
And so you want to talk about a strong female character? Watch her in that movie.
Okay.
So that,
Cool.
and this is kind of what we were talking about. That's one of my biggest gripes with Hollywood is like they need to put women into. And I'm talking to a woman now. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay.
Is and you know it's like YouTube fodder, but it's a lot of people talk about how women now just like they're impervious to they'll punch a 7 foot 300 pound dude and like break that guy's face and like nothing ever happens to them. They're just perfect characters. But I'm like, I kind of miss the Karen Allen from Raiders of the Lost Ark. So
Mm,
I went back and watched. That's one of my favorite movies ever. But I went back and watched it recently, and I was like, man, she is such a badass character. I was like, I know she plays
yeah.
damsel in distress or whatever. I was like,
Yeah.
but she tricks that one dude, Belloc.
Yeah.
She outdrinks a monk.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Um,
right.
and then she gets on a Gatling gun and mows down a bunch of Nazis herself. And plus, she's
Yeah.
like the most stubborn person ever. I was like, they made such a cool, strong character out of her. And
Hmm.
so I always get that's I'm like I'm raising two daughters, you know, and
Yeah.
I always get not bent out of shape, but I just get annoyed when I hear like, oh, they wrote this character all wrong. And I'm like, how do you know? You know, everybody's different. Not
Yeah.
everybody needs to be the same person. But I was like, I feel like
No.
Taylor Sheridan really, really is capable of writing badass, strong women characters, but they're human.
Yeah.
That's his whole angle. Is he
Yes.
writes things from from a very human perspective. They're not
Ab-
superheroes.
no, absolutely. And I think it's such an interesting it's such an interesting thing in our world now with women represented in movies and TV
Hmm.
because it's you can put women in those roles and they can do really well. Like I said, look at Beth in Yellowstone. But look at, even like back watching Alien.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
can go back
Ripley.
and watch all these.
Yeah.
Yes, you can see all these women. There were movies that they were portrayed like amazingly.
Hmm.
And I think we're slowly getting back into that,
Yeah, we are.
but then sometimes it feels like it's not good enough
I know.
where people get really upset. You're doomed if you do, you're doomed if you don't.
Yeah.
So I love watching movies and TV where you get the really strong female
Mhm.
character, but it could have been a man, but
Yeah.
they casted a woman and you're just like, yeah, but she nailed it.
Yeah.
And I think the only sort of issue that people have with like action movies now with women is when in certain scenes, a woman kicks like five guys' asses and
Yeah. Yeah.
or and people are like, oh, well, that's so unrealistic, and it's like it's unrealistic for a man to verse
I
five
know.
people, and yet
I
we're all
know.
just like, oh, that could happen.
Yeah.
No, no.
No.
So I think it's like you just have to enjoy the moment, and I personally, for me growing up, I think there was sometimes a little bit of a gap in the early 2000s of those female characters. And I
Yeah.
really saw it with Kill Bill. And I thought, wow, this was the most incredible movie I've ever seen. And she was a woman. And even, and I've talked about it on my channel before, even Charlie's Angels. I was a
Yeah.
little girl when I watched Charlie's Angels and I thought, this is the coolest movie. And they were very sexualized, but still the action, the idea of seeing women kick someone's ass or be really smart and do all these things. It's so powerful and it's such a powerful message. And I think it's finding the balance of not sexualizing women too much, but they can still be beautiful and smart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
it's just finding that balance. And I think we're moving towards that where we are. I also think it's really important for women to be part of writers' rooms if you're writing for women.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many rom-coms where you're like, oh, well, this was definitely written by a man. And you notice it, you can tell. So I feel like it's not just about women being represented on the screen, it's about women being represented behind.
Sure.
And we need to be able to direct and write and edit and produce and do all these things because female stories have to be driven by women, I think. I mean, that's just, but then you look at someone like Taylor Sheridan,
Yeah.
who is a strong male, but then he does have the power to create these really amazing women. So it's just, I find it a really interesting dynamic that we're in now with
I do.
watching it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I agree with you
Mm.
for the most part, but I also do think there's a lot of good writers out there that can write either one of the characters. You know, I don't
Absolutely.
care. I think the problem that a lot of people have is that women now in movies, and this isn't all of them, it's just, maybe like a giant big budget movie or something, is like women seem impervious to anything else. Like they're the
Mm,
perfect character. The men are the ones that are all flawed, uh,
mm,
or like toxic or whatever you want to say about it. And
yeah,
I'm with you. I think there's kind of been a course correction on that because there's been a lot of blowback.
yeah,
But I mean, even like go back and watch Lord of the Rings when what's her name? Is it Eowyn when she stabs the guy in the face and he's like, no man could do this, and he's like, well, because I'm not a man. you know
yeah,
because
yeah, yes,
the big bad what's it called, ring wraith. So
yeah,
yeah, it's always been around. But yeah, so
yeah,
anyway, Wind River, watch it. If have you
yes,
seen it, have
okay.
you seen Sicario or
I love
yeah.
Sicario.
Yeah, so Wind
I
River's
love
yeah, Wind River's
Sicario.
awesome. It's so good.
Yeah,
And it was
okay,
one of those
cool.
movies that just kind of flew under the radar too. But you know,
Okay, I'll definitely check it out.
it got him Yellowstone, I think. So, but now I'm like,
Yeah,
because I love Tulsa King too. I love mob boss stories, and Sylvester Stallone is
yeah.
awesome in that show. Did you watch it?
Yeah. I watched the first season. I liked it. I found it entertaining, but
It's not.
it
It's
didn't strike a nerve with me as much as some of Taylor Sheridan's other shows.
yeah.
I thought it was
Season two's I think better. There's a lot more
okay, that's
going
good to
on.
know.
But
Okay.
they had Frank Grillo in it, and he's kind of a
Yeah.
big mob boss, but he's like in Kansas City,
Yeah,
and
okay.
because usually that guy's in like these B grade movies where he's playing essentially like a Liam Neeson character, but in this he really gets to shine, and I really really enjoyed the dynamic he had in that show.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
it's
season two a lot better.
I don't know how you feel, but with especially because we do this and there's so much TV coming
So
out.
much, so
I
it's
really have
impossible to
to
keep up with
like
it all.
yeah, and I really have to pick and choose. It's like
uh
with Tulsa King, I enjoyed the first season, but I'm like, okay, but I have like five other shows
I
that I
know.
need to watch ASAP. So I'm like, okay, maybe. So depending on, also, you know what? I really pick my TV a lot based on what my followers want to see
Sure.
and what they're suggesting as well. I mean, there's a show called The Agency that I haven't watched yet,
Okay.
but I've had
I haven't even
so many people yeah, so there's this show called The Agency, also on Paramount Plus. The amount of comments I get on it. Have you watched The Agency? I get a message. Have you watched The Agency? Have you watched it? I'm like, oh my God, no,
yeah,
shit. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So I'm like, okay, maybe I should check that. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah,
like, I also, I watch things that I want to watch. I still dip my toe in reality TV because that's what
yeah.
I really enjoy. Even though I know it's not going to be great for my content, I still watch it because I need to
You still
unwind.
gotta watch. Yeah, you gotta watch some stuff that you just you can turn your brain off.
Yeah, exactly. And then I kind of tailor what people gauge what people are saying online, what they like and what they want to see reviews on. It's like, okay, great.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Yeah,
I'll do these
I get
things.
so many comments where someone will be like, "Did you watch this?" And I'm like, "Listen, man, I got these movies that I gotta watch and review,
I
and I got
know.
this show that I'm watching like five different shows at once, so I gotta remember
I,
what show I'm watching."
I know.
It's
I
so
know.
yeah, and then I'm like, and then I gotta go to my daughter's volleyball game, in between.
Yeah, and
So
it really yeah, it really becomes picking and choosing
yeah.
shows now. It's like I have to let certain things go
hmm
or I'm just like I can't yeah, or I watch a show and I go, damn it, I shouldn't have wasted my time on that one.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
there's a
then I can
lot of
tell
so
people that.
do you get like early screeners and stuff for certain things? Because I know how they did deliver movies out there's a lot different.
Not for TV shows. I get invited to some movie premieres, which
Yeah.
is very cool.
Mhm.
But no, I don't get any early release TV shows yet.
Okay. I get like
Yeah.
every once in a while I'll get like I got the what was it, Skeleton Crew.
Oh
I give
yeah.
me like the first three episodes before they drop like the first two or something.
Cool.
So I
That's
never get
really
like
cool.
full seasons, but I've
Yeah.
gotten those. But yeah, usually with movies I'll get like I got Nosferatu a few weeks early. They sent me a screener to watch it.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
yeah, yeah. What'd you think?
That's
So
really cool.
I'm curious from your perspective. What did you think of Nosferatu? Or was it did it not
It's
was it not working for you?
it didn't God, I love like I there's elements of it that I really the acting, Lily Rose Depp is
Mm-hmm.
incredible. Her scenes were amazing.
Yeah.
There were certain I actually really loved it's just so random, but I really loved the way that they did the sound mixing and the sound
Oh, so
editing.
good.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I just every time there was music or sounds, I was just like, wow, this is so beautifully
Falling. Yeah.
done.
I had I had somebody tell me that they think Robert Eggers is essentially like Wes Anderson of the horror genre,
Mm,
but
okay.
instead of using like a pastel palette, he does it with
Yeah.
black, and
Yes.
he can make black colorful in the weirdest ways. Yeah,
I agree. It's a beautiful movie, but I think also period pieces are always going to be a little tough for me. I'm not a huge period piece fan.
okay.
But I felt there were some scenes I feel like that weren't necessary or needed that didn't really move the story along. They just felt
Mhm.
like they were there. Whereas I felt like it could have been just a touch shorter. Um, but
Okay,
there were certain elements of it that I just kind of found a little bit boring.
okay.
Just a touch. But
I
then there
get
were
it.
some but there were some scenes that were just anything with Lily Rose Depp was just
I get
creepy and
Yeah, I think the
oh,
biggest conspiracy theory for me is like I'm still not convinced that was Bill Skarsgård.
I know, I know. I know. I felt that. And also I think some people were really thrown off by his mustache.
Yeah, yeah. I think for how you can put like your little description of the movie before, and I was like Count Orlok coming with the best porn stash in the game.
Yes, yes, I
Well,
did
I
see
heard
that.
Robert Eggers talking about it where he was like, I want it to look kind of like a decaying body, like a guy who's been alive for a long time. And I was like,
I,
I totally liked it. But a lot of
I
people,
get that.
yeah,
Yeah, I totally got that. He was so creepy
yeah,
and especially
gross.
those
Like looked like a
oh,
rotting corpse almost. Yeah.
yeah, and those scenes with him and Nicholas Hoult in the castle
Yeah.
were excellent.
I mean, that
That's what I
accent
mean.
is insane that he pulled off in that.
Oh my God, it was crazy. There's just, yeah, like I said, there were I loved so many elements of it,
Yeah.
but when I walked out of the theater, it didn't blow me away.
I got you. I totally get it.
You know what I
So
mean?
I saw the screener and I absolutely love the movie, but I
Mm,
saw the screener early and in my review, I was like, I don't know how general audiences are going to see,
yeah.
react to this movie. So when it dropped in the theater, I went and saw it in the theater, and there was a few people that walked out of it. So I was like,
Really?
yeah, I mean, Robert Eggers.
Okay.
If you don't know who Robert Eggers is, you're not going to enjoy his movies. If you're
Can,
just a casual moviegoer.
can I ask, how did you feel about it the second time?
I liked it. I really, really, really liked it. I picked up on some of the stuff that because I watched it on like
Yes.
a tiny little computer screen the first time I saw it, so
Yeah.
I missed a lot of the sound
The
mixing.
moments.
I missed a lot of how beautiful the cinematography was because
Yes.
I was trying. Whenever I watch movies, especially from a really talented director like someone like Eggers, I'm always trying to figure out where they utilize CGI, and I couldn't really
Mm-hmm.
figure it out in that movie. And even on the
That's
big
so
screen, it
true.
was really hard for me to. I mean, there's moments obviously you're like, oh, that city's digitally altered or whatever,
Yeah.
but he uses it so cleverly that you're
Yeah.
just, I was very captivated by that aspect of it. So
Uh,
that's usually how I do. Like the first time with the movie, I'm trying to watch the story and the performances and all
mm-hmm.
that stuff. And the second time, I go through to look through a lot of the technical aspects of the movie to that I may have missed the first time.
I actually had someone comment that said that they felt, so when I did my review, they felt that way the first time.
Hmm.
Then they went back and watched it again and they were like, no, I'm wrong. It's brilliant.
Yeah,
It's incredible. You catch everything that you kind of might have missed, or you
yeah,
appreciate the story so much more the second time. And I strongly believe that there are a lot of movies that you kind of miss the point of them or the hype of it.
yeah,
That's what I think for me too. Also, it's like because Nosferatu, I watched it quite late. The hype for it was so high. I saw some content creators say this is the best movie they've ever seen. And I'm like, oh
yeah,
my God.
yeah.
So I think I saw, yeah. So the thing is for me, it's like, I was like, okay, I'll give it a try a second go because
Mhm,
I'll admit there are some movies that like, for example, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
mhm.
I, the first time I watched it, I was kind of like, oh, this was very hyped and I don't know if I liked it.
That's still some
And
content creators like favorite. They still talk that movie up to this day. I love it.
yeah,
But
and then I watched it a second time, a third time, a fourth time, and I love it. I love it so
okay.
much. But I think with that movie in particular, I had a certain story in mind that I thought he was going to do. And so when he didn't do that, I was like, oh, it kind of threw me off.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's just some movies that if the expectation is way too high, sometimes it can alter how you feel about it the first time that you watch it.
Yeah.
So I will definitely, Nosferatu is something that it was such a beautiful film that I would absolutely watch it again anyway.
Yeah.
And see how I feel, if I feel a little bit differently about it, because yeah, that can happen. And that's what makes me sad about when people just write off movies so quickly sometimes, where they're like, oh, well, I just didn't like it. Oh, but
oh yeah. I mean, like there's so many times you'll put a thoughtful review out there and someone will just be like, no, it's dog shit. You're like, okay, please elaborate. You know,
why?
Why?
I just didn't like it. It's like,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Well, I mean, films are very subjective. Like, you know, I might walk into something and have a completely different experience than you.
100%. Can you give me 1 second? I actually am gonna grab my charger.
Is your phone getting? Well, yeah. Go ahead.
1 second.
You're good. And then we got. All right, let's see. Pull this guy up here. All right.
Okay. You did warn me that this would happen.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. Hey, you know, dead air. But when this is done and over with, I'll put up a YouTube link and I'll cut this part out. So
okay, perfect.
Like if you're gonna show it to anybody, you can be like, hey, here I did this thing, and it'll be on Spotify. It'll be on Spotify tomorrow too. So if you want someone to listen
that's
to
so
it,
cool.
yeah, because my wife usually listens to these in the car in the mornings and stuff. So that was actually a question I had for you. Do you so you're married, obviously. Do you does your husband watch a lot of this stuff with you, or do you just kind of so like what I do is my wife's very particular about certain. She doesn't like a lot of violence or a lot of those certain things. So whenever a movie comes out like Wicked, I'll take her to go see that, or I'll take her to go see what was a movie she loved. Oh, like The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, something like I know that's lighthearted, that has a good story. She's really gonna like it, but I took her to see Gladiator 2, and she absolutely hated it. But so do you bring your husband to things that he's gonna like, or are you just like, hey, let's go see this movie and see what you think?
Yeah, it's funny. He does not like horror movies.
Okay.
So that's one thing.
Nosferatu must have been torture for him.
You know what though, he doesn't like horror movies because of jump scares.
Okay.
So he's just movies. Yeah. So he didn't mind Nosferatu. He actually quite liked Nosferatu, but he didn't like the jump scares. Obviously, there's quite a few jump scares, but there's certain things like I know that he's gonna like, so I bring him to a lot of the action premieres and a lot of things like that. We watch a lot of. He loves Taylor Sheridan, so we watch all those shows together. But he's a big sci-fi guy, so anything to do with sci-fi, sometimes he'll watch on his own or we'll watch together.
Okay. Are you not a big sci-fi head?
Sci-fi's hit or miss with me.
Okay.
There's a line. There's a line of sci-fi for me. And so we watch quite a few things together, but because I do this now, I've said to him, I'm like, I just got to move forward. I gotta watch this without you.
Yeah.
And even Landman last night, I was like, I gotta finish it. And he's like, okay, that's fine. I'll watch, the last episode on my own. And I was like, I'm sorry, I gotta put out a review. I gotta do these things. So there definitely, we watch quite a bit together. But I'm very lucky in the sense that while I work, I watch TV as well.
Yeah, me too.
So,
me too.
Yeah, so a lot of the shows that I know are for me or for the followers or for, that I know he's not going to like, I'll watch on my own. But there are some shows that I've started where I'm like, uh-oh, he would really like to watch this.
Yeah.
And I've had it.
I'll go back and watch some with my wife. Like, I had to watch Shrinking, so I could get the review out there. And season 2, I thought was phenomenal.
Incredible.
So much better than the first season. And I love the
Same.
But
Yeah,
they really explored a lot of things. The character development really came full circle in the second
and it was
season.
so funny.
I mean, there's times where you're like, it gets a little self-indulgent and you're like,
Yeah,
okay. But,
yeah,
for the most part, I really, really, really like that show. And
me
so
too.
we started the first season together, and then now I finished two and she's still on the first episode. So sometimes I'll go back and watch it because I actually really
Yeah,
like Bad Monkey with Vince Vaughn. I thought that was a
love
really
that show.
fun, I
Love
love
that
Bill
show.
Lawrence. And so
Yeah.
I'm going back and watching that again with her because I knew she'd like that show. And
That was actually really, sorry to interrupt you.
no, you're good.
That was actually a great show to watch week to week.
Yeah.
I really
Perfect show to
enjoyed
watch
that
week
show
to week.
week to week.
And it's
Every week I was like, yes, I'm so
yeah,
excited to see where it's
yeah,
going.
me too. Me too. And Shrinking too. I actually was cool watching that week to week as well. Uh,
Yep,
just
absolutely.
because that shows can be take emotional toll on you, So
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, I need a little break from that. But the comedy is
Yeah.
so well in that show too. Harrison Ford, like I'm mad.
Oh,
I'm mad at Hollywood for not putting him in more comedies because
I agree.
his comic timing in that show is unbelievable. And I'm like,
I
dude, this
agree.
guy, one of the best
He's
action
so
stars
funny.
ever, is actually hilarious when you give him the material to be so. Uh,
I agree. I also, it's funny. I don't know if you feel this way, but I'm actually really, really happy to be with a partner that isn't as
yep,
into movies and TV as me,
yep,
because I feel like I get to share something I'm so passionate about with them.
mhm,
And even, and I've kind of turned him a little where he'll watch something and he's like, wow, that was beautifully shot. And
yep,
I'm like,
yeah,
he would have never said that before.
yep,
Or he's like, the writing is really good. I'm like, yes, okay. Like he gets more into the elements of it,
yeah,
but it never overshadows or not overshadows, but he doesn't come over the top of what I'm saying, or it's like, I get to show him some really cool movies or really cool stuff.
right.
And, it's nice to be the person that shows them or introduces them to something that you're really into. I feel
Does
like
he
if
ever
we were
introduce you to something that you were like, whoa, babe, have you been hiding this on me the whole time?
Okay, I will say this. I will admit this, okay? I don't want to admit it, but he started Squid Game
Mm-hmm.
when it came out. Like before,
Before
like
everyone
it,
was
the big
talking about it.
hype, before everyone was talking about it, it came up on Netflix and he was like, "Oh, I'll check out this show. This looks cool." And I walked into the living room and he's watching it and I was like, "What's this?" And he's like, it's this really cool Netflix show. It's called Squid Game. They die if blah, blah, blah. I'm like, this sounds stupid. And I walked out of the room. And then, obviously a few weeks later, it's the biggest show ever on
Yeah.
Netflix. And he goes, I told you. And I had to watch it by myself. So there are things that, and even, for example, he watched Silo because I thought it was going to be too sci-fi for me. So he watched Silo without me. And, uh, I thought, oh, and then people kept talking about Silo, Silo, Silo. And I was like, oh shit, maybe he was onto something.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
So there are definitely some shows that he discovers or watches just because it sounds good to him. And then I have to admit that I'm wrong, which I don't like to do sometimes.
That's
But
okay.
yeah,
It's fun.
he does, which is nice. It's good. But then there's quite a few shows that like those shows like Foundation and that are very sci-fi.
Yeah, that's a
Like
very
for
sci-fi.
me, I tried to watch Foundation. I was like, this is too
Couldn't get into
much.
it. Yeah.
Couldn't get into it. And then he's like, great, then it's a show that I can go watch on my own. So
Mm-hmm.
he still really loves watching TV, but it's kind of nice that we have these separate genres
Yeah.
that we're into.
Yeah, that's funny because when
And
I first got with my wife, she was like, she just watches the same shows all the time because she knows what she likes. She liked like The Office, How I Met Your Mother, Friends.
yeah,
Um, and then I came in and was like, hey, let's watch this show, and then let's watch this show. So now she's like,
yeah,
she has a very broad appeal, and so like we will always put on a show before we go to sleep because she just can't sleep without the TV on.
yeah,
So like I've introduced her to Seinfeld, which is one of my all-time favorite shows, and Always
yeah.
Sunny in Philadelphia, which is also one of my
Oh, my
shows.
favorite.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. I'm gonna do. I put a poll out there on YouTube, and I'm gonna rank all of the 16 seasons of Sunny soon. So, um,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Can you let me know when you
yeah,
do that?
yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Because I'm really dying to know what you would rank. Because I've thought about doing that. And then I'm like, this is actually
It's a big
way
task.
harder.
It's a big task. But yeah, I mean, there's like, you know, from seasons 2 to about 8. I mean, those are hard to rank for me. Just the
They're
later
they're
seasons,
not.
the COVID season I couldn't stand, but every other season I'm
Yeah,
like the show still has something. The last season I thought was really funny, especially
I
the
thought
one
it
where
was
Dennis has his, you know, his day where he's trying to relax the whole time. I was like,
incredible.
this is brilliant. So
Also, the bowling episode I really like too.
yes, yeah, that one's great. And I like the one I like the one where Mac finds out he's allergic to nuts when they're trying to sell all that stuff. The economy's so bad, and his face keeps swelling. Yeah, there's elements of that show
It's
that are just
yeah.
amazing. But
I also feel like it would be hard to rank because there are some seasons that may not be as strong, but they might have one of the funniest episodes
right,
in it.
right.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh
Where it's
yeah,
like there's certain seasons where I'm like, okay, but it has that episode that
episode.
I
Yeah.
love.
Well,
So yeah, I'm are you gonna do that? So are you gonna do it when they announce Series 17, the
well,
date, or are you gonna do it soon?
I know they're filming it right now, but
Yeah.
I was like, I was struggling. I had a few videos I wanted to put out, and I was like, help me decide. I was like, I'm working on
Oh right, it's on a
this one,
poll.
and so they did a poll, and they want to see that. So I'll probably release it.
Cool.
I'll probably release it next week. Yeah.
Awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
I can't wait to check that out.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll appreciate it.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. I also feel like just going back to, with our partners and things like that, it's also really nice to have such a great support system with
Yes.
them, and how much, like with my husband, it's very I have to, I've watched a lot of TV, but I also do a lot of this filming and stuff, but it's also, no, it doesn't take a toll on our relationship, but it's like there's certain things that I have to say no to social wise,
Yeah.
or
Sure.
I have to prioritize certain things. So it's actually really nice to have such a great support system. And
Yeah.
obviously you have a similar situation, or else we
Yeah.
wouldn't be
Yeah.
content
And
creators, because you do need that.
you know, once you sprinkle kids in there, it gets a little bit more. But you know, as much time
Yeah.
as I spend working and doing this, I still try to spend a lot of time with them. I think it's important. So,
Yeah,
but you know,
absolutely.
there's times like she's very very supportive. But I know that sometimes, you know, I might go see a movie like Thursday night after I'd been at work all day at like 8 p.m. You know, I won't get home till 11
Hmm.
or something like that. And I know sometimes she's like, "Oh, I wanted to spend some time with you," but you know, for not 99%
Yeah,
of the time, she's very, very, very supportive about everything I do, and
of
she gets it, and
course.
she
Yeah.
sees my stuff, and she's like, "I think it's great." You know, I'll listen to your reviews, and sometimes she'll watch one of my reviews and be like, "Oh, I want to watch this now." You know,
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah,
like,
that's great.
yeah,
I have it where, so my husband will watch a great show together, then he'll go to work and he'll be like, you guys got to watch this show. And then they give him credit for the show. And I'm
yeah,
like, did you tell them
that I
that that I recommend it? And he's like, they'll see it on your Instagram. I'm like, okay, that's true now, but it wasn't always the
wasn't the
case.
case.
He would take credit for amazing shows that I recommend.
That's funny,
Uh, but yeah, or, I've had it where I've recommended shows to someone and then they don't end up watching them for a long time.
right?
And then they'll come to me and go, I just watched this show. You should check it out. And I'm like, no, no, no. I recommended that show to you a year ago. And I have that quite often. And it's really funny. It's really nice when people come to you and ask for recommendations and stuff, because
Yeah,
also everyone has different tastes, and everyone
yeah.
has I try to ask people what were the last kind of few shows that you liked, because you kind of have to gauge when
You
you're
have to gauge
recommending
what they're
shows,
into.
not to
Yeah,
not to the masses, but even just to friends. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, there's just some shows that not everyone's gonna love.
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Movies are the same thing. Like I know
Totally.
when Nosferatu came out, I was like, I'm not taking her to that because she will hate it. You know, she won't care about the artistic element of the movie. She's just like,
Yeah,
can you go? I don't understand why we're sitting here watching it, and that's fine. I
totally.
actually kind of like that because I've been in a relationship before with a huge film buff, and it was not compatible, obviously.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so
I
it's
honestly,
really nice.
yeah, yeah, it is really nice. It is, and I think, yeah, I think it almost works better. Not to knock anyone that's in a
Yeah,
relationship with someone that's also passionate about it. That works too.
yeah,
But it's also, yeah, it's just something. It's nice to be able to share that with
absolutely.
someone that you love.
Well,
Yeah.
we're getting close to towards the end here. I wanted to bring up,
Yes.
and I don't know how much gossip stuff you do, but have you been following along with that Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively lawsuit with?
Oh my
It
God.
is the most Hollywood thing I think I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yes.
But
That's the perfect. It's tedious.
yeah,
It's tedious.
it,
And it's,
it's funny when you go
oh,
down the rabbit hole. It's so in depth, but at the same time, you're like, wait, what? I don't. I
yeah.
guess I
At
just
this,
can't relate to anything that's happening here.
yeah. Are they both just assholes? I honestly, it's really hard because I've seen, and this is, I guess, the power of social media.
Hmm.
You can, whatever algorithm you're on, or
Oh
what
yeah,
certain sites, like it's really interesting. I don't know if you see this or notice this. Obviously, we probably follow the same Instagram accounts where
sure.
it's like we get our TV news or whatever. Oh, do a little thumbs up.
Yep.
Um, um, I will look at the comments, and there will be one publication that prints something about this,
Right.
and all the comments will be like Team Justin, blah blah blah. Then a different publication will do a similar article. I'll look, Team Blake, Team Blake, Team Blake. This is what happens when women, call out bad behavior, blah blah blah. And then you go on social media, and some people are like advocating for either one, and
Right.
it seems so muddled, and it seems so, unless you go and read all the evidence.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that though, if I'm
I don't
being
either.
honest.
And then
I
I
have
saw
no interest in it.
no, and then I saw part of the lawsuit has to do with the Nice Pool character he played in Deadpool.
That's
Yeah, he's saying
ridiculous.
he's saying that it was based on him. And I'm just like, it's so funny to me because I'm like, they live in such a different world than you or I.
I know. And I think it's so funny, the conspiracies. It's like because he was shot outside a flower shop.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's one
Come
line he
on.
said too where they're like, "Oh, that was
Yeah.
what he was saying behind the scenes or something." I don't. It's all exhausting.
I'm, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. Honestly, it's something that, obviously pops up on our feeds a lot.
Sure. Oh man, all the
And
time.
all the time because there's new things. Oh, he was in a basement for the premiere. Here are the photos of him in the basement,
Right.
locked in a basement. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. This is like the egos
Oh
of
man.
these two people.
Man.
I
Yes.
just feel like there's way more important things than these two. And I'm not saying that one is wrong or one is right. I actually don't think it's that clear. I actually don't think it's black and white with this at all. I think people are naive to think that they can be on one side of this
Yeah.
because I think both of them have all this evidence against
Yeah.
each other of just being assholes.
Yep. That's all it is. It's who is the bigger asshole.
Who's the bigger
Yep.
asshole?
Yeah. It
I
really is.
think I think I think actors sometimes have such huge egos and they live in their own reality.
Yeah. They live
And
in their own bubble. And I lived in Los Angeles for 6 years, and it's 100% true. It's
oh yeah,
100% true. It's they
oh
live.
yeah,
They live there, and that's it.
yeah,
So,
that's it.
um,
And you just think, is this worth all the money and the trouble? And the movie wasn't even that good. I just, just,
oh no,
the mess. No,
I didn't even
and the
review it.
thing,
I watched it and I was like, this is just gonna piss off a lot of the females that come and watch my stuff. So I'm just not gonna say anything
yes.
about this movie.
I, what I think so. I read the book because
I
during
heard the book's
COVID.
great, but
Okay, so I
very
read it during
female centric
COVID.
book though, right?
Yes, yes.
50 Shades sort of deal.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I read the
bondage and all the weird stuff.
yes. I read the book and I thought, okay, that was really kind of this book isn't for my demographic.
Right.
This is for the younger
Yeah.
demographic
Right.
because
Yeah. Like a Gen Z book,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yes, it is a Gen Z book, so I found it personally a little cheesy for me because I was like, oh, I'm in my 30s reading this book.
Yeah.
It's not for me. I can understand why it got so popular with the younger Gen Zs. So I knew that the book, if I found the book cheesy, I knew I was going to find the movie cheesy no matter what. Even if you cast them older, I still found it. I just watched it and I was like, oh, okay, is this worth all this drama for? I don't think it is. And then the lawsuit and everything else, I just think it's a little ridiculous.
Hmm.
And it'll probably go on for a really long
Yeah.
time because it's such a gray
Well, and they
area.
got so money to throw at it, so much
So
money to throw
much
at it and
money.
stuff. So yeah, it's Hollywood, but I guess it
Yes.
makes for entertaining banter between
Oh
some
yes,
creators
absolutely.
because we don't live in like it's so funny. I'm so far removed from that world, but at the same time, I'm in it every day. So
Yeah,
it's like a weird
exactly.
juxtaposition that you find yourself in.
I
Uh,
agree. And I have people message me and say, how do you feel about this? Or what's your comment on it? And I'm just like, I hate to say it, but I don't care. It's not that I don't care about people having allegations or coming
yeah,
forward and all those kind of
right.
things. But these two in particular, this particular lawsuit, I just don't have as much to say with it because I don't have the time or effort to go through
Right.
all the evidence.
I know. I know.
You
It's
know?
funny. So, I've got a couple more things here. So,
Yeah.
what was your favorite movie from 2024?
Oh, The Substance, which I
Okay.
know is a controversial answer. So
Which
many
is
people,
so funny because
it was,
I was talking to a creator. Sorry to interrupt, but I was talking to a creator last week about it, and I had it in my top 10. I think I had it at like number 5 or 6.
hmm
And I said it's controversial, and he was like, "You think it's controversial to have it on?" I said, "Not for people like you and me." I said, "All of us have this
yeah,
in the top 10." I was like, "But for
yeah, yeah.
everyday movie going
Everybody,
audiences, people, I put that review out. I loved it, and some people were like, "This is the worst movie I've ever seen," and I've had other people like, "This is absolutely brilliant." So,
it's so true. I think, and I don't want to speak for like our sort of TV movie buffs, but
Mhm.
that movie was so well done. And body
Yes,
horror aside, like if people can't handle body horror, I completely
right,
understand why that movie would not be for them.
especially the last
But it
30
was,
minutes.
oh yeah, I absolutely loved it. I brought a friend to it because I knew no one would want to see that movie
Uh-huh.
with me. I brought a friend that I thought could probably stomach it. She had a really hard time with it. She really liked it by the end, but she, during the movie, had a really hard time with it. But I did not stop thinking about that movie.
Nope,
I just did not
I love that
stop
movie.
thinking about it. Yeah, I loved it so much. But
It's
I really loved Nora, and I know I watched it late.
love that.
I loved Alien Romulus.
Okay.
I loved Dune Part Two.
Yeah,
I
that was
think those
my
were
number one.
all, yeah, I think
Dune Part 2 was my
those
number one.
yeah, Dune Part Two. I think it was my favorite movie experience.
Just the big blockbuster.
Big
Yeah.
blockbuster. There were certain scenes that I turned to my husband and I was like,
Yeah.
that was incredible. And like, I just was sitting there going like, yes, this
Yeah.
movie's so good.
I always make a point to
Um,
people. I'm like, the Marvels cost $80 million more to produce than Dune Part 2.
I know, I know, I know. I remember reading that and being like, oh, it's just, yeah, it was incredible. There
Yeah.
were some good movies. There were some
Yeah.
really good movies of 2024. I think that 2025 will also have some really great
I think so
movies.
too. I think I was talking to somebody about it too, and he was like, I didn't really. Yeah, he's like, I thought 2024 was actually pretty weak, and I said I agree to a
Okay.
certain extent,
Yeah.
partially
Yeah.
because I think of the strike really affected a lot of movies that
Definitely.
weren't able to come out. But
Yeah.
I also I enjoyed a lot of movies quite a bit. I mean, Dune Part 2 really kicked things off. But I will say, I remember January through February of last year, those were some rough movies to sit through. Uh,
Oh God.
yeah. This
Yeah.
year, I mean, I didn't like the Wolfman at all, but
Yeah.
I was like, it's still better than anything I watched until Dune Part 2 last year. If that
Yeah.
makes any sense, because
Yes.
I really like Lee Winnell, who directed Wolfman.
Love him
I
too.
loved Invisible Man. I thought it was great. It tried something new, something
Incredible.
different.
I love that
It
movie.
really worked for me.
Yeah.
This one didn't at all work for me.
I get that. And
Yeah,
you know what? It's so funny because I went to the premiere and when I walked out, my friend and I were like, that was good. We'll never watch it again.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it was good. And then I remember like when I got home and like you're kind of digesting everything that you watched and stuff. I remember thinking, this will probably be on Rotten Tomatoes as like a 50-60 because like 50 to 60%
yeah,
because I feel like it's either people are going to like some elements of it or they're just going to not like it at all.
yeah.
I think I think in my review, it's like I can respect the practical effects. I love practical
Oh,
effects.
me
I
too.
want more practical
Wa-
effects. The acting I thought was really, I loved Christopher Abbott and
Yeah,
Julia Garner.
he was the one for me in that one. I like Julia Garner a lot. My only gripe with her in this is I didn't find her super believable in that role.
That was the main, I
Yeah,
feel like a lot of people felt that way. Um, and I also, there were some shots in it that I thought were really, really well done, like
really
really
cool.
cool, really cool. But then besides that, I found it so cheesy.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think they should have had
I
their little
thought,
girl. I know they were trying to have this father-daughter thing.
yeah,
I didn't like it. I feel like they should have gotten rid of her and made it more of a horror where it's like a couple goes into the woods kind of thing. Because this whole hand thing that they kept really pushing on us, I
mhm,
was like, this isn't going to be a heartfelt movie. I wish they would have stuck more to the
yeah,
horror or like the thriller and the tension more than creating this like really sad story, I guess. We're trying to create it
trying to,
between,
yeah.
that was the only thing. I feel like it wasn't written strong enough, but there
No,
were elements of it that I liked.
I agree with you there. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, the daddy daughter thing. I'm a sucker for daddy daughter stuff. You know, I got
Yeah.
two of them.
Of
But
course.
the I try not to rag on kid actors too much, but I
Yeah.
what they're asking for that young girl to do, I don't think she's really developed
No.
or she doesn't have that range of acting yet. There's still
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And then the transformation stuff was cool, but
Yeah.
it took like the whole movie.
I know.
So
I know.
by the end, when everything's popping off, uh, and then like it was very predictable. I
Oh, it
knew
was,
I knew
yeah,
exactly who that wolf, the other guy was that scratched him from. I'm like,
totally.
I could have told you that from the beginning.
Like literally the beginning, like the beginning.
Yeah,
It was like,
yeah. No, I could have
okay.
told you that like super super early on, and then somebody told me they're like it's basically like a zombie transformation movie, not a werewolf transform. I was like, well,
Yeah.
why are they still werewolves during the day? Because I was like, don't they? Doesn't it have to be a
Yeah.
full moon for them to be
So,
more? And I was like, there were things in it that just didn't make much sense to me. Uh,
no,
and then
yeah.
I've heard some people say that they thought the character design. I liked it because it was kind of like that Lon Chaney 1940s Universal Monsters throwback. But I've heard a lot
Yeah.
of people they're like, well, it takes place in Oregon, so he kind of looks like a crazy meth head. Yeah, I mean, I see that a little bit. He's
Yeah.
falling
Yeah.
out. He's super angry.
Yeah, it's like it's a lot of the I don't, you probably feel this way about certain movies too. It's like you can see the potential in them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You could see it's
Cinematography
like
is awesome.
yeah, there's so many elements that worked and it's like it just needs to be written better. It literally just needs to be written better and I just feel like everything else kind of ticked the box for me. Good acting, good director, good cinematography. I hated the score, but that doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
But it's just, to me, the writing just wasn't very strong. It was simple. It was way too simple. And we live in a world now where we need to be shocked. We need to be surprised, especially in the horror community. We
Yes.
need something different. We need something that's going to bring, and I think they tried to do that with like the wolf's perspective.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh yeah,
but it
when
just
the
wasn't
do the
enough.
camera pan and show how he was like he couldn't understand his wife. I thought that
Yeah.
was really cool.
I
Uh,
thought it was really cool.
yeah,
So I just think but that wasn't enough.
yeah.
That wasn't enough. The story was way too simple and way too
I
predictable.
think that's the whole thing with the movie is there wasn't enough. It dragged for a lot of. I thought it was actually quite boring at some of the
Yeah.
points, and
Hmm.
then at the end you're just kind of like, well, I mean, there just wasn't enough there. There wasn't. Yeah, there just wasn't. I feel kind of empty walking out of this movie. I guess I wasn't
Yeah.
affected. I didn't get emotionally invested in any of these
No,
characters.
no,
Um, I didn't really feel the daddy daughter connection at all. And then
no.
when it ended, I was like, okay.
Yeah. And I think now with the horror genre being developed to an entire different level where everyone's getting really into horror movies and we're getting
Yeah.
spoiled with good horror movies.
Yeah.
If you're going to do a remake or you're going to come out, especially like Blumhouse, it's like you you better come out with something
Yeah,
really good because we are just too spoiled with horror
I know.
now. There's too many good horror movies, and I feel like there are so many good horror movies coming that, yeah, I just feel like it dropped the ball a little bit because we have expectations now of
Yeah,
what horror movies
right.
should be.
And what's a shame too is there were some really good horror movies last year, I thought.
Yeah.
Um, did you see Cuckoo?
No, because once again, it didn't come out here in Australia till way too
Way late.
late. And
Yeah.
I was like,
So
was it good?
I absolutely loved it, but there are people
Okay.
that it's one of those movies where like you're gonna love it or hate it because
Yeah, I heard.
it's not
Yeah, that's right.
traditional horror. It's kind of a wonky time loop,
Okay.
sort of sci-fi elements sprinkled in there, horror
Cool.
movie that gets crazier as it goes on. Um,
Okay.
but some of the horror elements in it were like the best I saw last year. Um,
Wow.
but
Okay.
it's one of those movies where I
Okay.
was like, any other year, a lot of people would have been talking it up, but I feel like it just kind of came and went. And
Yeah,
Dan
okay.
Stevens is like quickly becoming one of my favorite character actors. He was so freaking good in that movie. Uh,
Ooh, okay, I
he
gotta
wasn't
add
in
it
it,
to
I
the
don't know if
list
it would have
then.
had the same effect, but it's all I really liked it. Once again, I said, and we talked about him ad nauseum earlier, but I said it's basically an episode of the X-Files directed by David Lynch, is how that
Okay.
felt like to me.
Okay, cool.
I really,
And
really liked it.
that's a really good point. I feel like it did get buried
Yeah,
a little bit
yeah,
because I totally forgot about it. And I was really excited for it to come out. And then I realized Australia was going to release it way later. And then I kind of forgot about it.
yeah.
So
And sometimes
I
you
could
guys get
probably,
stuff earlier, not often, but
it's
you do.
not often, but sometimes we do. And it's
Because I
very
feel like you
exciting when that
posted your
happens.
Gladiator 2 review like weeks before it came out here. Oh,
Well,
that
I
movie
got,
came out worldwide before it came out in America.
yeah, so but I went to the premiere. They had the premiere like 3 weeks before the
Yeah.
movie release.
Okay.
And but I couldn't do a
Yeah,
review
that part, yeah.
until I think like yeah, until the day before its release.
Okay.
Um but yeah, it did come out early here because I think for you guys it came out the same day as Wicked,
Yep. Yeah,
right?
people calling it
Which
Glicked. Glicked. Like,
yeah,
the Barbenheimer thing, everyone was like, "Oh, let's do Glicked." But then,
yeah,
Gladiator
they
2
didn't do
wasn't
that
as good
here.
as Oppenheimer, so
No, exactly. And they did not do that here. In Australia, they were like, we're not releasing those two movies on the same day. We'll
yeah.
do
Was Wicked
Gladiator
huge
first
out
and
there?
then Wicked.
Was Wicked
Huge,
big in Australia? Okay. Yeah, because it was
huge,
huge here. And I was, like,
massive.
unexpectedly huge because I thought it was gonna bomb, honestly. I mean, I thought the
Really?
trailers were okay, but then the press tour was so insufferable with those 2 that I was like, "I don't know if I can handle this movie." And then when I saw it, I was like, "Wow,
Yeah,
actually, this movie's
yeah,
nothing like I thought it would be." The characters,
no,
both of them are phenomenal in their roles, and I actually really like the characters that they portrayed. And I was like, the movie's
absolutely,
big and loud and glamorous. I was like, but the best part of that movie for me is a lot of the quieter moments, a lot of the
absolutely.
moments where they get away from the sort of schmaltzy, big musical
Yeah,
things and show like the emotion of the characters. I thought that was just great. So
yeah,
yeah,
that movie was incredible.
yeah,
Absolutely incredible. We
definitely.
all loved it. I went with a bunch of girlfriends and we walked out of the theater. We were all crying and we're like,
Yeah.
what did we just
My daughter too. I remember
witness?
looking over at her towards the end of the movie, and she was just tears flowing down her face.
Yeah,
And then I asked her,
just something about that movie.
yeah, I asked her, I was like, why? And she goes, it was just their friendship, and then and she's like, Elphaba, you're
Yeah,
shivering or whatever, and she got out of the cape. She's like, she just lost it, and she was like,
yeah.
she goes, I feel like she was a really good person, and they made her out to be such a bad guy, but their friendship was really strong. And she's like,
Yeah.
and she goes, and it also broke my heart thinking at the beginning of the movie that she was like celebrating that the witch is dead. I was like, yeah, yeah. There's a lot more layers to that movie than I was expecting.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. I can't wait for part two.
me neither. Me neither. I
Yeah,
I did my movies I'm really looking forward to last year, and that was like one of my top 5. I was like, I had
yeah, me
no
too.
interest in the first one, and now I can't wait to see how everything wraps up. But I never saw the
Same.
play, so I kind of went in there as a noob. Uh,
Yeah,
and then ironically after I started reading the book, and the book couldn't be more different. I don't know if you've ever.
I haven't read the book. I saw the play. I saw it on Broadway
Okay,
when I was, I don't know, like 17.
okay,
So I don't remember
yeah.
any of it. So I kind of felt like I went in blind. But yeah, everyone said that the book is quite different.
Man, it's It's
It's
it's
way darker. Apparently the book's like really dark.
it's
Is that
really
right?
dark and it's very adult. There's like
Oh,
you
okay.
I was telling one guy the goat, Dr. Dillman, the guy who
Oh,
Peter
yes.
Dinklage plays, you know how
Yes.
he gets taken away or whatever, and like in the book he gets killed, like his throat slit. There's like orgies,
Oh,
like
jeez.
orgies in the book. There's yeah, it's wild, man. It is not
Wow.
at all what I was expecting, kind of like a continuation, within the same realm,
Yeah.
but it's written in a specific prose. It's very,
Okay.
it's almost too smart for the type of story
Okay.
it's trying to tell. I feel like with the way in the
Okay.
movie they didn't dumb it down, but they simplified it. But a lot of the
Mm,
things that happen in it do happen. There's Galinda. She eventually changes it to Galinda.
yeah.
There's a lot of the similar characters. They go to Shiz University, things of that nature. But the way it's
Yeah.
told, you're like, man, this is not at all what I was expecting. And I got to say, I actually
Ooh.
really have enjoyed reading it because it's way
I
different,
might
way
read it
different, way
now.
darker.
Okay, cool. I'm actually gonna read it.
Yeah, it's
'Cause,
it's
yeah,
and
I want to
there's
check that
and there's
out.
like 3 or 4 sequels too of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Well, hey,
All
there
right,
you go.
I'll
Another
add that to the list
recommendation
too.
coming your way.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
Oh,
yeah, what
goodness.
are some movies and shows that you want to that you got your eye out for this upcoming year?
I mean, honestly, I feel like 2025 is going to be, it feels like the return of a lot of great
Me too.
shows.
I kind of feel that way
It,
too.
there's going to, well, I mean, we've already started with Severance, which is incredibly exciting, but we're also getting The White Lotus,
Yes.
Black Mirror,
Mhm.
Stranger Things that we talked about earlier. There's going to be all these shows that were put on hold because of the strike
Yeah.
are finally all coming through, which is going
Yeah.
to be really exciting because I felt like last year the new shows were kind of outshining the returning shows a little bit. When I went to go do my top 5 returning shows, I was like, oh, this is not as
Yeah, it's kind of weak.
strong as the top 5 new shows. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of things I'm quite excited to see. White Lotus is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I
Uh,
love that show.
I love that show
Yep.
so, so much. So I really can't wait for that. I am going to attempt to wait for them to all be out.
Oh, okay. That's
I've done
great
that with
move. You're gonna
every,
have to stay off social media.
oh, I know. I've done that with every season of The White Lotus and nothing's been spoiled for me.
Okay,
Thank
fair enough.
God. But I do like watching it all together. It
Yeah.
is an experience watching the entire season
Yeah,
because they do a lot of cliffhangers and stuff
yeah.
like that.
And when that show
It is.
started, I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it. Like the first 3
Same.
or 4 episodes, I wasn't really into it. I was kind of like, I could take it or leave it.
Hmm.
And then it
Yeah.
got really good. And then the second season I thought was a lot better. So
I
it's
had it, I had it where I didn't check it out at all.
okay.
I had people tell me, I don't know if it's trying to be a comedy or a drama. I don't really care for it. I'm not going to watch it. And I was like,
Okay.
oh, okay. And quite a few people told me that. So I was like, I'll stay away. And then finally, I think it was my sister. I can't remember who watched it. And they were like, no, you've got to watch it. It's really good. And then finally, and I was like, oh, and even the second season blew me away.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really excited for it. But yeah, and then what are you looking forward to the most TV show wise?
I think the number one show I'm looking forward to is the new Daredevil show.
Yes,
That trailer came
that
out.
trailer,
And so I
that
think
trailer was
I'm
good.
I'm a big and yeah, I'm big into the comic book stuff. All right. I mean, I
Hmm.
used to be. I don't really read it much these days, but I thought Daredevil was the best thing the MCU has done, the first 3 seasons of that. So when I know
Yeah.
that this show had all kinds of problems, people were pissed with the direction it was going. They shot a bunch and then
Mm.
scrapped a bunch and then said some characters weren't returning and then blah blah blah. And then finally when I saw it, I was like, this looks like what we need. This is what people have been asking for, and I'm so
Yeah.
stoked for it. It looks great. So I
I
mean,
think
and it
I'm
comes
kind
back
of
soon.
looking,
So
yeah, and I'm really looking forward to sort of bridging that gap between, the Netflix
yeah,
MCU
and the
and
Disney.
the Disney.
Mhm.
I'm really excited because I was a big fan of Jessica Jones and Luke Cage,
Yeah,
and I really liked those shows.
I
I felt
enjoyed
like,
it.
yeah, I enjoyed them. It's like I thought some of them were too long, in my opinion. I felt like some of them definitely started to drag, but
Yeah,
I did enjoy those shows. And so I am really excited to kind of see how they tie in this kind of Disney world and the Netflix world together. And the trailer does look very promising.
looks
I was
gritty.
going to ask, yeah, I was going to ask you. I mean, I haven't seen Daredevil in like such a long
Did you
time.
watch all three
And I was
seasons?
yeah,
Okay.
I think I did. I need to go back and double check that I
I'm gonna
have.
actually have my wife watch that because I hadn't watched them in so long, and because I wasn't thrilled with the direction
Yeah,
MCU's been going. But then
same.
I saw that and I was like, all right, I'm super stoked for this. I'll probably have my wife watch because I know she'll like those. I know she'll like
Yeah.
those shows.
And so what I kind of wanted to mention is for anyone else that feels like, oh, do I have to go back and watch these things? I went on Reddit because I
Hmm.
was like, oh, should I go back and rewatch Daredevil? Like, should I go back and get this whole, context of what's going on? But apparently the seasons are between season 3 and this new one is quite a bit of a jump.
Yeah,
And so I think from a comment on Reddit is that someone was saying, I think the MCU will actually try to simplify this slightly for people to come in without having to
like
watch all the
those.
other Daredevils and be able to enjoy this regardless of
Okay.
if you've watched them or not.
Uh huh.
So I found that a little interesting because I wonder how many people really, if you have to go back and rewatch these Daredevils, but then some people in the comments were like, you got to watch Defenders, you got to watch Daredevil, you've got to watch
You don't need to watch.
Hawkeye. He's like, watch Hawkeye, so it introduces Fisk,
Fisk. Yeah,
yeah, Fisk, and I was like, I remember watching Hawkeye. I definitely watched Hawkeye. And I'm like, but all these characters, I'm like, should I go back and watch Daredevil? That was a long-winded way of asking you, should I go back and watch Daredevil, or do
I'd
you
go
think
back
it's
and
going to
watch
be okay?
Daredevil. You don't need to watch all the
Okay,
Defenders.
okay.
Is a cool concept because they wanted to kind of make them Jessica Jones and Daredevil, and
Yeah, I like Defenders.
I want.
I really
Yeah,
like.
okay. I didn't care for it, but I
Yeah,
mean, it was there, and there were plenty of
yeah,
people that enjoyed it. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I'd say just go back and watch because one, it's just great television. I thought.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
yeah, and apparently
That's
it's
good to know.
I know it's a jump, but I think it's going to pick up because I saw that they had Bullseye in there, and if you saw season 3, how it ends, it kind of so it looks like it ties in. So
Okay, so see, that's really good to know, and I mean, listeners might want to know that too because a
yeah,
lot of people might have watched the trailer and been wondering, should I go back?
yeah,
So it's good to hear that because I definitely think that I have to go back. So
yeah.
that'll be a journey in February.
So yeah, that's definitely one. I'm really looking forward to the new season of 1923. I don't know if you
Me
want.
too,
Yes,
of
can't
course.
wait for that.
Can't wait.
I thought
So
1923
excited.
is one of the best things that Taylor Sheridan's ever done. It
Me
was
too. I loved it.
so good. And the
I loved it.
1888 was fantastic too.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to Reacher. I don't. Do you watch
Oh,
Reacher?
I haven't watched Reacher.
I call it the Dad Rock Show.
Yeah.
It's just like old throwback 1990s musclehead.
Okay.
He's essentially the Terminator, but with brains.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
love that show. It's I don't want to say mindless fun because there are some elements to it where you're like, oh, that's cool how it works, but mostly it's just a dude a nomad guy who travels from town to town beating the hell out of people. So
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
I love it. And then the new Alien show, Alien
Me
Earth.
too.
Can't wait for that. And
I'm
then
really excited.
me too. I'm very interested to see where they're gonna go with that. Stranger
Yeah.
Things season 5. I'm looking
hmm
forward to. And then two more I got is It Welcome to Derry, the prequel to the It movies. I'm very
Yes.
intrigued by that. I saw Bill
Oh,
Skarsgård is going to be Pennywise, which is awesome.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's supposed to. Did you ever read the book?
No.
Okay, so the book's great. It's got its problems, but especially I don't know if you've ever heard about the scene where I don't want to get into it. It's too explicit.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
But
Okay.
there's a scene if anyone who's read the book they know what I'm talking about. It's with the all the kids in the tunnels towards the end. But there's also interludes in the book that tells a
Okay.
story like previously. So they're gonna do the interludes from the It book as the whole
Oh,
series.
okay.
Kind of cool how they're going to tie it all together.
Interesting. Okay,
And then
cool.
there's the what's it called? It's that new Game of Thrones show. I'm looking forward to.
Oh, yes.
Night of the
A Night in Seven Kingdoms.
Yeah, that
Yes, I'm looking forward to that too.
can't wait to check it out. Although was House of the Dragon season 2, was that as much of a letdown for you as it was for me?
Yeah,
Yeah, it
totally.
was. Go ahead.
It felt hit or miss. There were some episodes that I loved that I thought were great, and then there were some episodes, especially the last
Oh my
episode.
gosh, what a
Come
fart! And
on,
just like
that was a
fall down
bad
and fart
episode.
episode. You know
Yeah,
what was
seriously.
disappointing to me about that season is Damon was such a badass
Mm,
character in the first season. And then in this season, I was like, he's just stuck in like having this
I
hallucinatory
know.
dream, and he's in this castle the whole time. So they did nothing with his
Oh,
character, and then
no,
they ended it like that, and I was like, wait, that was I wouldn't even end an episode that's not
no,
the finale like that. There was no ending.
no. It was, yeah. And then
It's like,
I went back and read the book
uh-huh.
because I was like,
I
oh, I
haven't never
can't.
read it, but go ahead.
It's okay. I know maybe I'll get some hate for this. It is painful.
Is
The
it?
book, it reads like a history book.
Right.
And so at the beginning, it's really cool because it starts with Aegon the Conqueror, and like we won't get all into it because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
But it's very cool how they kind of built the world. And I was like, okay, I'm loving this. And then everyone is named Aegon, and it gets really confusing. And then I'm just like, oh my God, feels too much like I'm in a history class
Right.
right now. Whereas I would have preferred a story. Anyway, but I needed to know what happens because I know we're going to be waiting
Yeah,
forever.
of course.
So I no spoilers, absolutely no spoilers, but I think the next season will be great.
I hope so. Isn't it supposed
Yeah,
to be the last season too?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be, and which makes sense. But I think it'll be a really good season, and it's unfortunate that they had to have season 2 be such
A letdown.
garbage. Yeah, but they kind of had to create it in order for season 3. I think will be excellent.
Yeah,
So,
I feel like Game of Thrones gave us such false hope because remember
I know.
season 8, like everyone hates it, and I do too. I'm right there with them.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
I don't want to say one of the few times, but me and the internet are complete agreement on that. I couldn't stand
yeah.
the last season of Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
And then House of the Dragon came out. I wasn't looking forward to it. Didn't care.
Yeah.
I had that
Yeah.
sour taste in my mouth, and I was like, all right. I watched the first episode, and I was like, you know what? That was pretty good. And
Yeah.
then I thought the whole season was just compelling, excellent.
Yep.
Especially Patty Constantine. I thought he was so good
Oh,
at that.
he was so
And
good.
then
That first season was excellent. I
oh,
really enjoyed that
it was
season.
great. I was like, this is better. This is what I put that up there in like maybe the top 5 of all the Game of Thrones seasons. And then
Yeah.
season 2 came out, and I was like, let down again by Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I know. So it'll be
Anyway,
interesting. It'll be interesting how we feel about A Night in the
yeah.
Seven
So
Kingdoms. So I think it'll be great. I'm really
ready.
excited.
Yeah, by all things. And then the last one I'm really looking forward to, even though it came out 91 years ago, is the new season of Wednesday. Because I really
Yes.
enjoyed the first season of that.
Yes.
But my God,
Yeah, me too.
if we're doing another season, guys, can we not wait this long?
I know. It gets crazy. Also, I mean, those actresses and actors age.
I know.
It's
Well, it's like Stranger Things are still supposed to be in high school, and I'm like, they're
yeah.
as old as I am now.
Well, think Euphoria, like all these shows.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, people. If you push it too far, it's like
Yeah.
I'm excited for Wednesday, and we're excited for Stranger Things, but there will be an element of us being like, this isn't realistic. But
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that's nice is Jenna Ortega still looks like she's 15. So,
that's true.
yeah.
That's true. Yes, that is absolutely true. So it should work. It should work.
Yep. All right. Well, Paige, thank you so much for joining me. Is there
Yes,
anything you want to
thank you
shout
for having
out,
me.
talk about, let people know what you got coming up?
I've got my YouTube channel that I want to launch in February. That's the plan. I also
Yeah,
have
let me
some
know.
really
I'll pimp that out for you once you do.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And then actually in February I have some really exciting things planned with the Real Housewives of Sydney,
Okay.
which is going to be very cool. I get an opportunity to meet them, and
Wow.
I can't wait for that content. So I'm really, really excited for that. So
You're
if
gonna
you're a
be able
Real
to
Housewives
film
fan,
them and do interviews
I
and
think
stuff?
so. I think so. I think that's the plan. We'll see. But yeah, that's something in February I'm really looking forward to. And yeah, that's about it. You know, I'll still trucking along, keep making videos every day, and just see what opportunities come up. And I'm excited to start, you know, doing a YouTube channel,
Yeah,
putting shorts out as well, and
sure.
seeing where that goes.
Yeah, yeah. Where else can everybody find you?
Yeah, so it's Screen Queen underscore TV on TikTok and Instagram.
Okay. Oh yeah, so like I said, TikTok is you can access it here in the States, but I don't know. I
Yes.
have no idea
How for how long?
yeah, I have no idea what dirty games they're playing over there. So
Yeah,
okay, well,
absolutely.
hey, I can't thank you enough for joining me. I thought it was a fun conversation. So let's do this again sometime soon. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so that'll be it. That'll be it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. All right, and then I'll stop that.
Perfect.